and I've been silent for too long.
Hey, what is up, everybody?
And welcome back to the Mile Higher Podcast, episode 27.
Yeah, we are super excited for today's episode, man.
Yeah, we actually
all week
really
we've
are.
been just like
we say that every time. I feel like we're always excited.
We're always excited to get behind the mic and lay a few podcast tracks down for you.
Mixing it up in the studio.
That's right.
No, but for real, this is going to be such an interesting one, and we're really excited to talk about this because we've been talking about this nonstop in our house.
Yes,
since we finished this.
Exactly. No, that's literally, you're spot on with that. We just finished The Staircase, a docuseries on Netflix, and it's probably one of the most intriguing true crime cases I think I've seen in a while. Because it really makes you think. It really makes you think about all scenarios here. So today it's basically the case of Kathleen Peterson, the death of her mysterious death, and it involves her husband Michael Peterson heavily. So it's very interesting. There's lots of twists and turns and just crazy shit coming out of all angles. Pretty much, it's a pretty wild one.
That sounded really weird.
That did kind of sound weird. Sorry.
No, but this is going to be such an interesting one because there's going to be a really, I think there's going to be a big mix in opinions from you guys on whether you think Michael Peterson is guilty or innocent. And I'm actually really interested to see what the reaction from you guys will be on this podcast if you haven't seen The Staircase. Because I know some of you have seen it, but some of you don't have time to commit yourselves to 13 episodes.
It's lengthy.
Yeah, well, they literally included everything. Every breath the judge took, like every moment of everything. It was so annoying at one point. I got really annoyed.
Well, there's just like lots of like just time where you just watch cars driving around. It's like, we don't need to see that. Like
they wanted to milk it for as much as they could. That's for sure. I think they could have fit it into 6 episodes comfortably, maybe 8 max, but geez, it's a lot. So we thought we'd, repackage this for you, explain it to you, and explain to you some of the things that the documentary left out.
A lot of things.
Because this documentary, in my opinion, and I think a lot of you probably feel the same, it is very biased because Michael Peterson had a pretty big role in getting this whole thing together, the movie.
Yeah, and as we find out later, he was dating the editor actually of this movie, which is also interesting.
They don't include that in the movie.
Which I would just want to say, like, we're not saying that we think the documentary is biased or that the director that directed it is biased towards him. I don't think it is. He said it's not either, so.
Well, I think it is.
Okay.
I disagree. I think it was very biased, and I the whole time felt like I was barely getting any of the other side. It was mostly the defense, mostly Michael's story. The cameras are on him most of the time. There's barely any influence from her family. There's a lot of missing elements, I thought. So in my opinion, it was a little biased. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about this case, because if you haven't seen it, I feel like I asked people if you thought, Michael is guilty or innocent on Twitter, and 64% said guilty, 36% said innocent. And I was curious about, for those of you who haven't seen it and all you will know about this case is what we're about to tell you, what you think, because I'm seeing so many responses saying, I just really liked him, or I really felt like he was innocent, or he seems innocent. And, sometimes seeming like you're innocent isn't enough to actually make you innocent. So
it not only that, but this case really highlights the just all of the missteps of the criminal justice system.
We'll be talking a lot about that too.
And it's just so apparent that there's definitely corruption and lying and people that are supposed to be giving us the truth, the facts about a case and the evidence and presenting only the evidence and with no personal bias. That does not happen in the real world. So this case really has a huge role to play in that whole thing. Because,
it's like a lot of the people that are saying he's innocent are saying because they feel bad for him, or they feel like he's too nice, or he seems like a good dad, or whatever have you. But like you just said, not in the real world, you don't get to see all that side of someone. And Michael got to load this documentary up with clips of his family crying and the sob story, and just, I feel like it tugs on your heartstrings. And that's a lot of people's reasoning for why they think he didn't do it. But some of you are like, wait, what is it? What are we even talking about?
Like, what are you guys even talking about, you crazy
I'm just really excited if you can't tell.
Yes.
We're ready to get into this.
So, and the last note I'm going to mention before we talk about something else real quick is that this is a long ordeal. This is 16 years of Michael Peterson's life that is captured in the staircase. And, we're going to attempt to digest all of that and hopefully give you a much shorter version of events that still has all of the details from both sides. That's the thing. We're looking at this from a totally neutral standpoint. I'm looking at the evidence today, and then at the end we'll decide, if our opinions about this have changed. So it's going to be a good one. But didn't you wanted to mention something about Monk, right?
Oh, I just wanted to mention them because I noticed I was wearing a Monk shirt today. So
convenient.
I know. I didn't purposely wear it, I swear. But I did want to shout out Monk. As always, this isn't sponsored. This is just, I'm an affiliate of Monk. But I think you guys, everyone should be trying out Monk. It is so good for relaxation, meditation, pretty much everything. What do you find you like Monk for?
It's just I
like to use them during the podcast.
Because I feel like I don't smell the world that much. Like
you don't smell the world.
That probably sounds really weird, but
yeah.
No, like when I'm outside, I just don't really smell much.
Yeah.
Unless it's something very potent or something very, pungent or whatever. So
you like the outdoor blends.
Yeah, and these just give me that exactly the nature blend. So I'm using Mountain right now, and it's just giving me that like mountain air smell.
Yeah, my favorite is Forest from the real. It's called the Feel Nature Collection. There's ocean, forest, and mountain, and it really does capture the essence of wherever they say it is. I love the forest one, especially really for some reason the forest one just like totally calms anxiety for me. Like I can step away in the bathroom, take a hit of this. Well, not take a hit. That sounds really weird.
Yeah, you're not taking
It's
hits
just
of
essential
Monk.
oil for those of you who don't even know what it is. I'm not even telling you. It's a
diffuser.
It's different types of essential oils into different blended portable units. And these can be recycled. You can actually send them back to Monk. They pay for shipping back. They'll recycle them for you.
That's dope.
Yeah, but I mean, they have all different types of blends. One of my favorite is Happy. It has fennel, thyme, and vanilla. I just really love them, so I wanted to give them a little shout out.
So, is there a discount on them? Like, what's the deal?
10% off with the link in the description box.
Sweet.
And there's a giveaway going on, so I will post that below too.
Awesome. Well, definitely check out Monk. We do enjoy our Monk products, that's for sure.
I use them throughout the whole podcast. That's why we always have some down here.
And then our next sponsor, the Lava Lamp Company. Please sponsor us.
What is their company name?
Lava Lamp. It's just Lava Lamp Company. Lavalamp.com.
Yo,
if you're
Lava
looking
Lamp
for a
Company,
lava lamp.
hit us up.
It's very slow to heat up, as you can tell.
Okay.
Or you're imagining. All right. Anything else to cover before we dive into this beast of a case? All right.
Let's do it.
No? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Without further ado, this is the story of the staircase. And the way that this story begins is late at night, around 2:40 a.m. in the early morning of Sunday, December 9th, 2001, an emergency operator in Durham, North Carolina, receives a call from local resident Michael Peterson.
Isn't it Durham?
Durham. Yeah. Did I say Durham?
Yeah, Durham.
Oh, man. I'm
sure,
gonna
all
get
the
shit
North
for that.
Carolinians. Oh my gosh, one of my friends just moved to North Carolina. If anyone's out there, I'm
just
gonna go
totally
out there
spoiled
eventually.
the mood I was trying to set for this.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to create suspense, and then you called out my Durham.
I know.
Durham.
I just love North Carolina. I'm excited to go soon. I'm probably gonna go this year, hopefully.
Sounds good, but
so random.
But
sorry.
dispatch early in the morning around 2:40 a.m. receives a call from Michael Peterson, who is notedly a 58-year-old man and a Vietnam veteran. And here is his phone call to 911.
911, where's your emergency?
1810 Cedar Street, please.
What's wrong?
My wife had an accident. She's still breathing.
What kind of accident?
Still downstairs. She's still breathing. Please come.
Is she conscious?
What?
Is she conscious?
No, she's not conscious.
Okay,
Please.
how many stairs did you fall down?
Huh?
How many stairs?
Stairs.
How many stairs? Calm down, sir. Calm down.
No, 15, 20, I don't know. Please, get somebody here right away, please.
Okay, somebody's dispatching the ambulance while I ask you questions.
It's in Forest Hills, okay? Please, please.
So, what do you think of that? Just
like right off
hearing
the bat.
that. Yeah, like if all of us are hearing this for the first time, what are your thoughts about it? What do you notice about it?
I thought he got really sketched out when she asked him how many stairs. Like he was like, what? And like, obviously he's dealing with some crazy situation. So obviously he's going to sound panicked, but he almost seemed like a little like taken aback or like thrown off and confused.
Definitely acting surprised.
Yeah. And then he's like 15, 20, I don't know. Get someone here right away. Like, I don't know. For me, it definitely
sounds a little
didn't
bit
feel
like somebody
authentic.
might be acting a little bit.
I mean, on the other hand,
But he could be totally shocked.
yeah.
And he's never walked in, never expected to see this scene as he's said it. And he's just blown away. Can't even like make sense of what's going on. Which it does sound like there's desperation for sure. He's breathing heavy. But I don't know. To me, it's just he sounds like he's like trying to create a scenario. You know, he's trying to create this description. And I don't know. It's 2:40.
So if you didn't figure out, she fell down the stairs. Now, do you want me to talk about the stairs yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think it's interesting to note because I'm sure a lot of you are like, okay, paint the picture in my head. I haven't seen the documentary. He said 15, 20 stairs. It is not that many stairs that she ended up falling down, you know.
We find out later, yeah. Or we pretty much think and know that.
And Josh and I have spent a lot of time on our staircase trying to figure out how this would work. And it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's really where all of the confusion comes in with this case, is she didn't follow that many steps. She wasn't going down the stairs. She was going up the stairs and fell backwards.
Right.
I mean, we'll explain all of that more in depth, but it was kind of like in their kitchen. Where's the staircase? I know it was going into the kitchen, right? Or towards the kitchen.
No, well, it's like it like kind of curves and goes up.
Yeah, it's kind of
like,
alcoved, like there's a little L shape,
like
and
up.
it's kind of dark, and
it's got kind of a little turn to it at the bottom almost. It's
right,
got an angled bottom.
Right. Yeah, it kind of has like a couple of those little wedge staircases,
but a straight staircase going up to the upstairs.
And so, I think she only fell down a couple of steps. Right.
And so Michael's calling, and in front of him is Kathleen laying on the ground with I think she's on her face, laying down on her stomach.
I thought she was on her back.
Or is she on her back? I can't remember which one it is, but because you definitely get to see a little bit of it in the documentary, but
wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I think it's the back because that's where her injuries were, but just blood everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of blood. So it would make you think that something, just from immediate first look at these crime scene photos, you would definitely think that a murder happened here. There was some type of blunt force trauma because there's blood spatter on the walls. There's blood, huge pool of blood on the ground.
Yeah, she's laying on her back with her
back,
head.
right.
So in the actual crime scene photo, since we're not going to like put that on the screen, that's so disrespectful.
I'll link it
but
for everybody.
Just the, for the crime scene part of this, she is on her back with her sorry. It's hard to explain
Take your time.
this.
Yeah.
She's almost completely out of the stairwell. Her head is on the lowest step, the very edge of it, and then she's kind of got her hands out in front of her on her body, and she's just kind of spread out with her legs open towards the outside of the staircase. So it's like she fell down and kind of slid out of the staircase.
Yeah.
Unless he moved her.
Well, it's weird because when you're looking at it, I mean, all of us have probably slipped down the stairs, especially if you have carpet stairs. Coming down, sometimes you slip and you go back. And in the picture, it looks like she had slipped backwards and like smacked her head going down. But they're saying that she was going up. So she somehow fell back and then landed on and then like hit the wall or something, then went down and then ended up on her back. And she's kind of laying like in the, like a... almost like a mummy position with her legs spread out. And
see that position, doesn't it seem more likely that she fell down, like what she was walking downward? I'm confused about why the defense didn't try to say she was walking down, because then you could almost understand how she would hit head, and then slide out.
Yeah, exactly.
But It doesn't make sense that she was walking up. And Josh and I kept trying to walk up our stairs and try to like slip. And what would we do? Your instinct is to fall forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you slip on a step or you
right,
miss
if you're
the
going
step,
up, you would put your hands down.
Forward. You're not going to like fly backwards like you slipped on a banana peel and end up on the ground.
I still struggle to see how that could happen from going up the stairs to where you like all of a sudden just like, I mean, I guess she's wearing socks.
Yeah, I mean,
so she's
not.
I
think she's barefoot. That looks barefoot to me. Look, you can see her ankles.
Oh yeah.
She's barefoot, dude.
She's
that makes
barefoot,
this even
so that makes
weirder.
it even weirder, yeah.
And if you saw this crime scene, you guys, you would look at it and you would not have your first reaction would not be like, okay, this person fell down the stairs. You'd be like, what the actual fuck happened? There's so much blood all over the walls, blood all over the stairs, the floor, everywhere. It's really bad.
Like blood had to have been like spurting out like from multiple exit wounds. Like totally. It's like, It looks like somebody either got shot or stabbed.
It's a terrible scene for someone who fell down the stairs.
So that's what Michael's calling about. And one of the things that I wanted to note about his 911 call is he says she's still breathing. Yes. And a lot of people who have analyzed him and his voice and his body language, because a lot of people try to like, there's ways to figure out if someone's being deceptive from their body language.
Yep. Looking to the left is a big one. What they say.
And a couple things is she's still breathing is a very odd choice of words when you think about the situation, but not totally uncalled. She's still breathing. How do you know?
Because it's kind of like, it's almost dead. Talking as if she's going to die. She's still breathing as of right now.
Right. Well, it's a great setup for him if he was trying to set this up to say she's still breathing on the 911 to make them think that she's still alive. It helps fit
his narrative
together, the narrative of the accident, the fall.
Right.
But minutes later, after he called the police show up. And in the Peterson's house, this is a huge mansion, guys. This is 10,000 square feet. It's got a big entrance hall, 6 bedrooms, and 2 staircases. A curved front staircase and a servant staircase, which is narrow and steep.
So is it the servant staircase that she fell down?
Yes, it's the servant staircase that she fell down, not the main one.
Okay.
So, but again, it's narrow and steep, and it is. It looks pretty steep. It looks pretty steep.
Mm-hmm. And very narrow and closed in.
So at the bottom of the staircase, as we've just been describing for you, is Michael's wife, 48-year-old Kathleen Peterson. She was breathing as recently as 10 minutes ago. She's definitely not breathing now, Michael said. Peterson's house, say the police, is now a crime scene, and it's a scene they will analyze in great detail. Here are some of the things they will discover. There are 10,000 splatters of blood on the walls, and there's a lot of blood. I would show you guys this, like I'd put it in the video, but I think it's too graphic to put in.
And I don't think I never put in like any type of pictures of a dead body, even if it's not graphic. Well, it's really not respectful to her.
Yeah, no.
If you died, would you want people to like?
If I was murdered, I would. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but not everyone wants to see it, I guess.
Yeah, no, not everybody wants that blood.
Yeah, definitely look. I mean, you have to look at it to truly analyze the crime scene. So, but it's just sad. It's just so sad. It is. Yes. I mean, obviously we're going to be talking about Michael mostly because he's the main, suspect in this case. But, Kathleen was a innocent person that died, whether it was, natural or not. Right.
So she is lying in a pool of blood. And one of the notable things in the very beginning of this case is that when paramedics arrived, they were expecting to still be with like a breathing body that was still, warm and still, either recently deceased or still alive, as Michael described on the phone. But when they arrived, the blood was dry around her, almost dry, not completely like crispy, but like it was dry.
Yeah.
Blood had soaked through the upper parts of Kathleen's pale cotton trousers. There's also a bloody footprint from one of Michael Peterson's shoes lower down on the back of the left trouser leg, which is very odd.
That is odd.
And apparently there's also smeared blood and a pool of congealing blood underneath and around the body. Kathleen has 7 skull-deep gashes on the back of her scalp. The skull itself is not fractured, but there is evidence of red neurons in the brain, suggesting that Kathleen died of blood loss, which would have taken 90 minutes up to 2 hours.
And these lacerations on her head, that is something, these gashes, definitely something to look up. If you are interested in this case, you probably got to see that picture to really make a judgment on this, because it's a very, very strange injury. Yeah.
Bunch of lines,
like gashes.
Lacerations. So, yeah, big, deep scratches on the skull. Some of the cartilage in Kathleen's neck has been fractured. In her hand, she holds a clump of her own hair, pine needles, and tiny microscopic feathers, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Crazy.
There's also blood in the crotch of the shorts Michael Peterson is wearing.
The crouch.
Crouch.
The crotch.
Crotch. Yes, sorry. Crotch. Crouch. Blood in the crotch of Michael Peterson's shorts. And it looks like they had been recently splashed with water. And when they spray luminol, a chemical that makes blood remnants glow blue, on the kitchen floor, the police will see that someone appears to have tracked and then cleaned up bloody footprints leading to the sink and the washing machine. The evidence at the scene will suggest to police that Michael Peterson killed his wife, not an accidental fall down the stairs as Michael suggests. So that was one of the key things that's why suspicion jumped on him, because
they barely talked about that.
Yep, they barely covered that up. But
I literally forgot about it until we just now read it that even happened. I don't even think they touched on it, or maybe it was really brief.
Very brief. It was
for
fast,
13 episodes. You think you would have focused on that? That is like the main reason that they were able to start.
Well, that's the thing. If you think about it, if police show up to an accident, usually it takes longer than I feel like the time it took for them to all of a sudden make Michael a suspect, which the flip side, there's a conspiracy with all of this that kind of the police were setting him up basically.
Why though?
Right. Which we'll get into later, but dude, that's so loud.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're shaking your drink.
Shaking my drink.
But it is interesting that the police immediately name him primary suspect and arrest him that same day. Or that early morning, essentially. So when talking about the Staircase docuseries, we'll cover some of the things that happen in it because they're the main parts of this case. But there's a lot of stuff that you definitely just need to watch in, further detail on the Staircase.
Okay, so this is good. This kind of explains his version of events from that night. Okay.
Yes. So Michael Peterson's in his house and he's telling his version of what happened the night he found his wife lying in a pool of blood.
And he's very calm.
Yes, he is.
It's very weird. When they went to interview him, it seemed like I thought it had been maybe 5-8 years by the time that they came, just because he seemed so removed from it. He seemed like, here it is. Yeah, whatever. I just don't get it. If that was you, I would barely be able to talk. Even if, especially if a documentary came, I had to show exactly what happened. That's so traumatic.
Right. And that will be one of the main, a lot of people that think he's guilty, specifically refer to his demeanor and his behavior, the way he acted, the things he said, because he does just seem kind of nonchalant about a lot of stuff, especially when recounting what they did and what happened to police. And he says he watched a movie with his wife, which ended around 11 p.m. when they went outside to drink a glass of wine on the terrace. Then they moved from the terrace to the pool area, which is a significant walk. It's a big garden. This is a mansion we're talking about.
Yeah, it's really big.
Lots of land. And there's also a wooded area with mature trees around this property. And in Peterson's account, they walk past the trees and settle by the pool. Bear in mind, it's late and it's December and it's 53 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So it's definitely not warm,
sometime
most
close
people
to
would
midnight.
think cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Around midnight. So pretty late, which on the flip side, not totally out of the ordinary, totally crazy that somebody would be out late at night.
Yeah, it's not like it was snowing. But
53 degrees is perfect temp for me. So, but
yes, well, we're polar bears. So.
he was out there in shorts and a t-shirt. Have you
Yeah.
So, And so many people that live in this area where they live would say that this is not necessarily like in the comfort zone of other people. And the local meteorologist would say that. And after a while, says Peterson, he never gives a specific time, but Kathleen went inside because she quote unquote had a conference call in the morning. And Kathleen was concerned about her work. She was a vice president at Nortel, a huge tech company in terrible trouble.
Why? Were they just like,
yeah, just like they were going,
bankrupt or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just business was not good. And that was the last time I saw Kathleen alive, says Peterson. And this is in the staircase. And he pauses and then says, no, she was alive when I found her, but barely. He said that. Barely. Interesting. Meanwhile, we wonder what exactly Michael Peterson was doing between midnight and around 2:40 a.m. What was he doing?
So, because he placed the call around 2:38?
Yeah, it was 2:38 or 2:40 when he called
911. Yeah, so if the movie ended at 11, how long was he outside?
Right,
he would have had to come
2
inside.
hours at least that he was by himself with no account of where he was, and he never explains where he was or what he was doing.
That makes
he says
no
sense.
He
He actually does say he was outside by the pool smoking his pipe, but for 2 hours?
That's ridiculous. That is insanely stupid. And you'd think my wife is coming back. Wasn't she coming back? Like she went instairs to get a drink. Didn't he say she was making a drink or something?
Yeah, I think
she was doing something in the kitchen and then she was going to come back. So he was expecting her to come back.
Yeah. And
if your wife doesn't come back at midnight, aren't you going to go fucking check on her?
Right.
And you'd call 911 right away, especially if someone was breathing and still barely alive. Obviously, you'd call immediately. So he's lying somewhere.
There's definitely a hole here, a huge hole of that window of time where we literally don't know where he was, what he was doing exactly. We have no proof, no alibi of what he was up to for 2 hours. And that has gone kind of untested, I think, through this whole thing.
Yeah. That's really weird.
And it's a huge thing because it's like, dude, what the hell? Like you just described, like if somebody falls down the stair, like the pool again is pretty far away from the house, and they actually tested this out in the film where they're like to see if you could hear her saying help from inside the house.
Okay.
And he's out by the pool.
Okay, Josh, if you and I were chilling on our back deck and I was like, yo, I'm going to go upstairs and get a monk pen.
Yeah.
You'd expect me to fucking come back with a monk pen, not to just be gone for and then just continue smoking your pipe for 2 hours. Oh, over 2 hours. He said around 11, they went outside. So what was 11:30 by the time he's smoking? Then he doesn't call 911 till 2:38.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make any sense.
2 hours.
Sorry. That is so
At
weird.
least.
That sounds like enough time for him to clean up, switch things around, and clearly there's evidence that he did. They found
possible
shoe marks, whatever, going to the washing machine and the sink.
So was
How
that
fucking convenient? Those two places, that's the two places you'd need to go.
I think the blood, like the fact that the blood is, and not that blood takes that long to dry or to, congeal into a stagnant state, but dude, I mean, they were like, we can't do anything. She's been dead for a while, at least 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So what the hell? I mean, if your wife has a fall, you wait 90 minutes? Like, what are you waiting 90 minutes for to call the...
Oh, so he said he waited to call, or he hadn't found her. Did he say either way? He hadn't found her until 2 something, or he waited to call?
He waited to call. Let's see. Hang on, let me go back up.
I don't think he waited to call. I think he's according to his story, because why would you wait to call?
Well, he said she was breathing as recently as 10 minutes ago.
As 10 minutes ago? Who doesn't take... That is bullshit. I'm sorry, my bullshit radar is going off like crazy. What on earth? If someone is literally dying in front of you, if my husband was dying on the ground and was still breathing, was like barely alive, I wouldn't be like, hang on, babe, I'll call 911 when I have a second. Or like, I'll call eventually. Are you fucking kidding me? You walk in, you see that, you call immediately. Don't tell me anyone would do anything else unless something is wrong. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it really doesn't. It doesn't make any sense at all. Not at all. Because like even if you look at it from like he's an innocent perspective, it just doesn't make sense. It's like You really just weren't there at all? You didn't hear anything? And here's the thing. Some people say, and Michael says, he just like fell asleep, was dozed off. Maybe he just dozed off after she went in, and she never came back until he
So if that's the
woke
case,
up 2
why
hours
didn't he say,
later.
I dozed off?
Right.
You'd think you would, explain why you were outside from 11 something to 2 a.m. in 53-degree weather in December.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense,
it's fishy, man.
Doesn't make sense.
Something smells fishy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And if you think that's like starting to like throw your mind through a loop,
Yeah.
now get this. So before we go any further with Kathleen Peterson's death, let's talk about one of Michael Peterson's family friends who was also found dead at the bottom of a staircase.
Now,
And
when
this is-
you hear this, sorry, I didn't know if you were going to talk
please.
again. But when you hear this, I think a lot of you will start to shift. Once I heard this, I was just like, oh my God, this is too crazy.
It doesn't help.
No,
it really doesn't help.
And the crazy thing about it is he hid it from his law attorney.
Yeah.
He hid it from his attorneys. They were like, what the hell? We have this whole other thing to deal with.
Yeah, literally. So here's the deal with this other death. So before Michael Peterson met Kathleen in 1986, he lived in Germany actually with his first wife, Patricia or Patty Peterson, who was an elementary school teacher at an American military base there. The couple had 2 sons, Clayton and Todd, who are his biological kids. And while overseas, Patty and Michael befriended a woman named Elizabeth Ratliff, who was a mother of 2 young girls whose husband was killed while on a military mission. Because like we talked about, Michael was in the military. But one morning in November 1985, their dear friend Elizabeth Ratliff was found dead at the bottom of a flight of stairs. And the evening before she died, Michael had been at her house helping put her daughters Margaret and Martha to bed. Which I understand, like, I'm
Helping
trying to think
someone.
of like it from his point of like if I was in Michael's shoes and I had a good friend who died and his wife had kids, like would I try to like step in and help, especially
Probably.
like that? There could have been a situation where that would make sense. So
For sure.
because some people are saying that that's like weird that he was like helping out with her kids and stuff anyway, when he had his own kids and his own wife.
Mm-hmm.
Ratliff was originally thought to have died from falling down the staircase until, of course, Kathleen Peterson was discovered dead in a very similar manner 15 years later.
Very similar matter. The staircases are actually, they are a little different, but they look pretty similar. The general shape of them is the same.
It is. It's eerily similar. There's a lot of similar characteristics to it. And the only reason that this even got brought up is because Elizabeth Ratliff's sister, Margaret Blair, when she heard of Kathleen's death, she actually called the detective working on the case and said, "Are you aware that the same thing happened to Margaret and Martha's mother, and Michael Peterson was the last one to be with her?" This is Elizabeth Ratliff's sister.
Mm-hmm. Because that's weird. And okay, so Elizabeth Ratliff was found at the bottom of the staircase too, obviously, and very similar condition to Kathleen. I mean, with the amount of blood,
Yeah,
the fact that it just
to the
doesn't
head.
look like a crime scene. It doesn't look like a fall down the stairs,
Right.
is what I'm trying to say.
Too bloody, in my opinion. It's
Yeah,
just like-
too bloody. Oh my God. And it, again, wasn't that big of a staircase.
It is. And I think I have some stuff in here about her injury specifically, but the main thing to note is like the actual lacerations on Elizabeth Ratliff's head were similar in length and size
Yeah.
to Kathleen Peterson's
That's
injuries.
really weird because Peterson's injuries are very unique, very odd, and can't be completely explained.
Right.
So for that to happen twice is weird.
And they actually ruled this a accidental death due to she had some type of medical condition with her brain that
She
caused
had
her head
anemia.
injuries. She had a hemorrhage of some sort, cerebral hemorrhage.
I think they said she had anemia and that's why she was bleeding so much. But then, she had
some
aneurysm.
medical things. Yeah, aneurysm, right.
That's what they thought.
Right. But they're
I don't
actually
think they did it.
re-examining the case as a homicide. But basically, Elizabeth Ratliff, after she died, the Peterson family, so Michael, adopted Margaret and Martha and moved back to the U.S. with them.
Adopted her kids and then left the country.
Right.
Interesting.
And when Michael and Patty's marriage began falling apart in the mid-'80s, the girls were the ones responsible for introducing Michael to his next wife, Kathleen, actually. The sisters were playmates with their daughter, Caitlin, who lived down the street in Durham, North Carolina. In 1987, the family moved in together and became one big happy family, as they say. Michael Peterson, so he is a former newspaper columnist, and he also wrote several novels, including the popular 1990s World War II era book, A Time of War, which actually garnered some interest from a Hollywood studio at one time. And according to NBC, he would have gotten more than $500,000 advance from his publisher for one of his books. He and Kathleen, who we noted earlier was a telecommunications company executive, raised the kids in their sprawling mansion. Peterson said in 2006, "We lived together for 14 years and we were happy every one of those years," when talking about him and Kathleen later on. So he always described his relationship with Kathleen as like picture perfect.
Yeah.
The family was picture perfect. There was no problems. It was always good. It was one big happy family is literally how they wanted everybody to see them as.
Right.
Which we will find out later is not exactly true. All right. So back to Kathleen Peterson. Again, she was pronounced dead on December 9, 2001. And earlier in that evening, Peterson said, this is a more detailed account of what happened with some more detail in it for you. But he says that the couple had eaten dinner, watched the movie America's Sweethearts, and then sat out by the pool. Because, of course, he's getting interviewed multiple times about this. So let's see if his story changes. He claims Kathleen went to bed while he stayed outside to smoke a pipe. Michael's defense claimed, and Michael okayed the basically theory that Kathleen, after drinking some wine and taking a Valium, tried to walk up the poorly lit stairwell when she fed and then bled to death. And this is the basically
when she fell,
the version of events. Yes.
I think you said fed. She fed. I was confused for a second. Sorry.
Fell. Did I say fed?
I'm pretty sure, unless I literally made that up. We'll have to find out when we listen back.
Oh my God. All right.
I thought you said, and then she fed down the staircase. Maybe I didn't hear you right.
I don't think so. All right. So when Detective Art Holland of the Durham Police arrived at their home, the scene immediately struck him as suspicious. He says Kathleen was splayed out on the floor, her head resting on the landing of a back staircase.
Splayed is a good word for it.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to say earlier.
No, that's a perfect word to describe. She was splayed out on the floor. Police also saw a bottle of wine and 2 glasses on the kitchen counter, neatly arrayed, implying perhaps the couple had passed a relaxing evening at home sipping wine together. Except Kathleen's fingerprints weren't on either glass. So the defense just said that they were drinking some wine when she took a Valium, basically saying that she was kind of like fucked up when she went walking up the stairs, slipped, and then fell. But they weren't able to find fingerprints on her glass. So maybe she hadn't
even picked it up yet.
Hadn't picked it up, or it was cleaned already, possibly. Because he had that time. I mean, I'm just saying from the perspective if he's guilty, he had that time, that extra time to really clean everything up. He's, and get it pristine condition before he calls the authorities.
It is odd if he did it, to do the same thing that you did to someone else, because I feel like that makes you look more guilty. But at the same time, you'd kind of know from experience how to deal with it.
Right.
So I can't decide if that'd be like a smart move or not.
It could go either way.
Trying to commit a murder.
Could go either way, I think. Because, well, he did it in a different country, so maybe he thought that he would leave that behind in the past, and no one would ever know about that.
You'd fucking bring that up, dude, to your attorneys. If why would he have left that out?
Right.
He was hoping no one would find out about that, and if her sister hadn't called, it's possible no one would have found out.
Right.
He was trying to hide it though.
And the whole Elizabeth Ratliff death played, I think, a heavy role in Michael's.
How can it not? It's too weird. This doesn't happen. Like, I've never heard of someone falling down the stairs and getting those types of injuries and dying. Not only once, but twice when you're the only other person there. That's weird. I think that is too weird, actually. Like, it makes this... It was weird just the fall
He was a witness
itself.
to 2 falling deaths down the stairs.
Yeah, come
What
on.
are the chances? Like, what's
There's
the stats?
none.
Can somebody crunch the numbers on that for me?
And if you were and you've experienced this before, you'd say that immediately. Like, this is so crazy.
Right.
This has
The
happened to me
natural thing,
before.
right.
I've seen someone, you don't just like not mention it to anyone.
No, that would be
It's
that
rather
is the
odd.
no, exactly. That's totally the natural response to that. So Kathleen, she like we just mentioned, we're not sure if she actually drank wine or not, but when the medical examiner later checked, they determined that her blood alcohol content was so low, she would have passed a breathalyzer test if she had taken one. So it could be low for a number of reasons, but it's also just shows that chances are she wasn't like drunk, at least that you could rule that out. Like she hadn't drank
She was in
a
like
lot
plastered.
if she had at all.
Yeah.
So not that much longer later, on December 13, 2001, Kathleen Peterson is buried in Maplewood Cemetery. So she's buried within a week.
Mm-hmm.
And on December 18, 2001, Michael Peterson, who has not yet been charged in his wife's death, hires defense attorney David Rudolph. Fucking David Rudolph, man.
You know what? I have to say, even though like sometimes he'd really annoy me because I felt like
He's a damn good attorney.
He's a really good attorney, and it's hard to be a defense attorney. I mean, I would find it so morally tough because at the end of the day, this is about Michael, and yes, we're all making a determination on Michael, but it's Kathleen Peterson who's really the big issue here, and who everyone should keep in mind first when thinking of this.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, David Rudolph is incredible. Dude, he's really good at his fucking job.
He is. He's very good. And he's been in a lot of high profile cases. And I didn't actually know this, but he was the attorney who helped former Carolina Panther Ray Caruth avoid the death penalty in 2001 for his role in the murder of his pregnant girlfriend. And he's actually does this a lot of helping people avoid the death penalty. Like he's known as like the guy to get you off, kind of like he's the one. That sounded really bad. The guy to get you off. Oh my god, the guy to
get you off of
death row.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's Michael threw all of the resources that he had towards his defense team. That's a big thing to note here.
Yeah.
Because he had money apparently somewhere, and he got the best attorney, the best team. He had experts, all this in the staircase. They show you get to meet all these guys, and private investigator. He had all these different things to do their own sort of investigation.
How much did he spend? Like close to $500,000 on his defense?
Oh yeah, it was easily up to $1 million, I think. By the end of it.
If you have money, man. You can't always do that though. Like if there's so many people out there who actually don't commit crimes, but it looks like they did, or they're in just a shitty situation. They can't afford to hire anyone. They go to jail. Yeah,
it's basically the criminal justice system is if you commit a crime, your best option is to shut your mouth, not say anything, and get the best attorney you can. And that's like the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
In any type of situation for anybody is just do that, because otherwise you're going to get, not all the time, but most times completely screwed over. So on January 14, 2002, Michael Peterson surrenders to police after a grand jury indicts him for first-degree murder, which is interesting. So they felt like they had enough to go after him for first-degree murder, which it kind of looks like they do. On February 18, 2002, Kathleen's autopsy is released to the public, and the medical examiner determined that Kathleen had been bludgeoned to death and suffered 7 deep lacerations on the scalp. The blood around the victim was mostly dry, meaning that she'd been lying at the bottom of the stairs for a long time. The district attorney, Judge Jim Hardin, said she was there for around 2 hours. The state's blood spatter expert claimed that blood droplets around the stairwell were made by the striking of a weapon, which in this case ends up being a blowpoke, which we'll talk about later. And the Petersons actually had a blowpoke, which the police could not find in December 2001. So at the scene initially, there's no murder weapons if this was a murder present at all.
Well, that timeline makes sense if she was there for 2 hours, like you said. Sometime around 11, they go outside, whatever, they have a fight. It would make sense if they thought she was there for about 2 hours. That kind of lines up.
Most definitely.
He cleaned it up, got it ready, then fucking freaked out and called the police.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. I'm just throwing out theories.
No, that's good. That's good. So on May 10th, 2002, the district attorney, Jim Hardin, presents in court the autopsy of Elizabeth Ratliff, the mother of the Petersons' 2 adopted daughters who died in Germany in 1985. So that was a huge thing that people on Michael's side say was unfair to bring this in. But I think it's
completely
relevant.
fair.
Yeah. I think
it's completely fair. And it's so weird
Which
when you
the judge
hear that.
thought
It really sets your mind. Like, and maybe that's why they didn't want it, obviously. But this is too real. And like when someone else has died and you were the only person there and they died in the same way, I am sorry. That is evidence. That is.
Right. And the reason why they bring Elizabeth Ratliff's autopsy report in is because Michael Peterson was the last person to see Elizabeth alive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's relevant. He was with her in her house on that late November night. A witness saw him leaving the scene. The next morning, Elizabeth's nanny arrived and noticed all the lights were on. She opened the door, and that's where they found Elizabeth Ratliff lying at the foot of the stairs. Blood had pooled around her at that point, just like in this case. There was also blood spattered on the walls by the staircase, and Michael Peterson, in this particular case, was not accused of her murder. Here we go. So Elizabeth Ratliff had suffered from von Willebrand disease, a condition in which the blood doesn't clot normally, and was believed to have died of a cerebral hemorrhage. So that's what they thought of at first, until 15 years later. Now they're looking at it like, whoa, this could totally been a murder. Apparently, before Elizabeth Ratliff died, Michael Peterson had been helping her with, or possibly looking after her finances for her. Not totally unknown, which a lot of people have speculated on whether or not maybe Michael Peterson was having some sort of romantic or intimate relationship with this woman, which
wouldn't shock me.
He says absolutely not. Everybody says absolutely not, but you might change your mind later.
Yeah.
But they for this court, they actually Elizabeth Ratliff's body was flown from Germany, and she was actually ended up buried in a sealed coffin in Bay City, Texas. Because this is wild, but they actually exhumed her body a few months later for this court case. But on October 29, 2002, Caitlin Atwater, Kathleen Peterson's daughter, files a wrongful death lawsuit against her stepfather for $35 million. So pretty much, he got arrested at this point. So I think,
and they didn't include that in the documentary.
No, they didn't include this at all. So this is Kathleen's biological daughter from day one, thinks Michael's guilty of murder. On February 18, 2003, Elizabeth Ratliff's 2 daughters, Margaret and Martha, who are now Michael Peterson's kids, give the DA's office permission to exhume their mother's body from her Texas grave, because they thought by digging up her body and bringing it forward that it would help clear Michael's name. Which definitely did not help, I don't think. So they dug her up for another autopsy with the state's medical examiner, which the state medical examiner's report states that Elizabeth Ratliff died of blunt force trauma to the head, and her injuries are similar to those sustained by Kathleen, according to prosecutors. So that's what they try to argue in court, is that her injuries are so weirdly similar that we think it's relevant.
I think it is relevant. I think they are absolutely right.
They're
so similar. If it wasn't similar, if it was like just some random other death and she bounced off a trampoline and died, it would be different. But the fact she died the same way as Kathleen makes this relevant and important.
It is, absolutely. Here's what the pathologist, actually the medical examiner, concluded were Elizabeth Ratliff's injuries. Or actually, that's Kathleen Peterson's. I don't have hers.
I don't know if they have hers public, but
I don't think so.
Read Kathleen's though.
So here's Kathleen's injuries as reported by the medical examiner.
Her autopsy is crazy. It definitely, I don't know, that really seals the deal for me. It was rough.
The diagnoses from the pathological office was multiple lacerations and avulsions, posterior scalp, so on the top of her head, multiple contusions to the posterior scalp, subarachnoid hemorrhage, slight to moderate, bilateral parasitical cerebral convexities,
Good job. I would have butchered that.
early acute ischemic neuronal necrosis, fracture with hemorrhage, superior cornu of left thyroid cartilage, contusions of back, posterior arms, wrists, and hands, which is, I think, perhaps, again, they left this out in the staircase.
They
Multiple
did.
small abrasions and contusions to the face. So injuries to the face, injuries to the back, posterior arms, wrists, and hands. So what?
That's so interesting because they really glazed over the autopsy in the documentary.
They did.
Really did.
But this was the whole autopsy, because they showed the crime scene photos to the jury, which I think was very convincing. And the medical examiner's testimony is extremely critical to the prosecution's case for their argument, for sure. So in August 2003, in court, the state argued that Michael Peterson's motive in part was connected to his sexuality. The prosecutor believed Kathleen had found 2,000 images of naked men on her husband's computer, plus an email exchange with a 26-year-old male escort who first contacted him 4 months before the murder and whom Peterson was planning to meet. There has been no evidence presented that Kathleen Peterson ever found out about her husband's email relationship with this 26-year-old male escort, Brent Wolgamott, a 28-year-old North Carolina State University chemistry student from Raleigh. And between August 30th and September 5th, 2001, Wolgamott exchanged about 20 emails with Michael Peterson.
And they were pretty vulgar.
Oh, they were,
Which is okay.
Which is whatever. Yeah.
As long as it's two consenting people, then I don't really give a shit what they say or what they do. But for this, and I just, can I quickly say?
Yeah.
There is so much to be made about his sexuality in this, and people thinking that it was unfair to bring that into it. But I just completely disagree. I don't think it has anything to do with his sexuality. It doesn't matter what he's doing on the side. It proves he was lying to his wife.
His story, yeah.
If we're in an intimate relationship and I find out you're, hooking up with anyone, that is going to ruin my trust with you. And I'd be very upset. So It's a reason. It's definitely, I think, part of a motive. Has nothing to do with him being gay or them saying, oh yeah, he killed her because he was gay. It has nothing to do with that. It's a secret. He could have been selling lollipops secretly online and it would be a secret. It doesn't matter what he was doing.
Right. But prosecutors basically argued that it's possible that his homosexual relations that he was having may have been a motive because Kathleen could have confronted him about it when she found this porn and these emails,
or told other people.
Right.
She could have said, I'm going to tell everyone.
Because here's the thing about this, and this is why this is important and relevant, is because the defense kept using this idea that their relationship was like storybook, fantasy, like romantic relationship, like totally happy, totally like sunshine, roses, like.
And it's not.
Which, again, it could have been, but
when
this
there's lying
could
going
be
on.
a deal breaker. I think this could really throw a bomb into everything.
We have no proof that she know that he was having a relationship with anyone outside of her relationship with him. And that, as a woman or as anyone, is upsetting to find out that someone has betrayed you like that. And I think in the documentary, tried to make it seem like, oh, I'm not sure if she completely knew, but, it was an unsaid, unspoken thing. I'm sure, dude. I'm sure you want people to think that she kind of knew about it, but I don't think she did. He was keeping this secret from everyone.
Right. I think his brother knew. Michael's brother knew. I think there was some people that knew about his bisexuality, but I think he was I think, in my personal opinion, he was hiding it from her.
Well, and it doesn't matter if he was hiding his sexuality from her. It just matters that he was hiding relationships from her, that he wasn't faithful to her. He was cheating on her.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't matter who it was with or what and why or what his sexuality is. He was betraying his wife.
Right. So do you think that it's possible that there was a deadly altercation due to her finding out about this? Do you think that could have happened?
Absolutely.
Finding out about his infidelity.
If I got on the computer and found out you were cheating on me with whoever, I would fucking
rage.
Yeah. Seriously, there would be broken stuff all over the house. I would go crazy. It would be a fight. So yeah, I do think that.
Yeah.
He's looking at me like, no, better not do
I'm
that
like,
ever.
Better go delete my history. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
I know
I'm
you
kidding.
are.
Oh my God.
I'd be shocked. We're with each other like 24/7. Okay. Anyway.
All right. So this guy, they actually brought this guy he was emailing with, Wolgamont, into the courtroom, and it's in the staircase. It's actually fairly entertaining
Yeah.
because he basically describes his services that he offers to the jurors. And
He was rude as hell for being in a courtroom, though. At one point, he was like trying to make jokes and was like looking around for people to laugh at him. It was like, dude,
right.
not the place.
Yeah, he was definitely kind of making
Light of it.
I think.
Yeah.
Which everybody was laughing at like one point, it looked like.
Because he was like, I know diddly about this.
Yeah. Well, they never met. They just had like an email exchange, and that was it, with like a bunch of like, pornographic images that they found. Because the prosecutors actually recovered, those pornographic images from Peterson's computer where the deleted files were stored. So this is another interesting thing. He actually went and deleted all of his files at some point after this happened, or before his computer got confiscated. He had done a clear of his computer, tried to, flush it out of all that stuff.
God.
And jurors were actually shown hundreds of images, thumbnails of photographs that were stored on the computer when someone visited internet sites. That's crazy. And they didn't tell that in the documentary either. Many of the images were of men. Some were merely shirtless. Others were engaged in various sexual acts. So, very interesting.
Why does he? I mean, that's kind of weird to me. Like, why do they need to? It doesn't really matter if he has pictures of people on his computer.
No, it's not. It's not that. I think it's just. Well, I think it comes into relevance because they were saying that like it was like picture perfect marriage, everything was good. Because when something like this happens, they dig in, they try to find every angle to try to figure out, could there be a motive there? Mm-hmm. They don't care whether or not it's like gay or not gay or straight or whatever. It's not about that. It's about the fact that, even if this had been a woman, they would have brought it in,
Right. But would they have, if he had a bunch of women, like pictures of women on his computer, would they have shown that? Unless they were pictures that were sent to him. But is he just like downloading these from Google? Like, who really gives a fuck if he's like saving images?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like, it's not like all like personally
prove cheating
like
or anything.
selfies or something.
Right. Yeah.
So, but again, if you show that to a jury, you're going to give, usually get a reaction from people, when they see things like that. It's going to be like, whoa, oh, geez, depending on who you are. So,
right.
But before we continue, I just want to quickly thank Quip for sponsoring today's episode. They have been a great sponsor of ours. And for those that don't know about Quip, we love Quip because the truth is most of us are brushing our teeth completely wrong and not for long enough and forget to change our brush on time. That's because most brands focus on selling flashy gimmicks rather than better brushing, but not Quip. So why buy Quip? Well, for starters, Quip is an electric toothbrush that's a fraction of the cost of bulkier brushes while still packing just the right amount of vibrations to help clean your teeth. Quip's built-in timer helps you clean for the dentist's recommended 2 minutes with guiding pulses that remind you when to switch sides. Super handy.
That is. Also,
Quip's subscription plans are for your health, not just convenience. They deliver new brush heads on a dentist recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5, including free shipping worldwide. So anywhere in the world for $5. Quip also comes with a mount that suctions right to your mirror and unsticks to use as a cover for hygienic travel wherever you take your teeth.
Yeah, it's very like geniusly set up.
It is. It's like the Tesla of toothbrushes.
It really is.
Because, everyone loves Quip. It was on Oprah's O List, Time's Best Inventions, and the first subscription electric toothbrush accepted by the American Dental Association. Plus, they're backed by a network of over 20,000 dentists and hygienists, and hundreds of thousands of happy brushers use Quip every day, including us. So, if you want to know more, Quip starts at $25, and if you go to getquip.com/milehigher right now, you'll get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/milehigher.
It's a deal.
GETQUIP.com/milehigher. Thank you, Quip.
Thank you, Quip.
All right. So here's perhaps one of the biggest pitfalls of the case, I guess.
Yeah. Pitballs? Isn't it pitfalls?
Did I say pitbull?
Pitbull. Dale.
Dale. No, but this is so now we get to the forensics and this blood spatter analyst named Dwayne Deaver from the SBI, the State Bureau of Investigation, North Carolina.
Dwayne Dummy. Sorry.
Pretty much. So Dwayne Deaver, why is he important? Well, he's an 18-year veteran of the SBI, and he told the jury that Kathleen Peterson was hit at least 3 times on the back of the head with an object, and that the back of her head also hit 2 wooden stairs. He said that based on the blood spatter on her husband's shorts and shoes, the wearer was standing directly over Kathleen Peterson when she was killed. And in the actual trial, holding one of Peterson's worn Converse sneakers in front of him and walking along the jury box, Deaver said, "The source of blood at the time of impact was above the shoes. I can't say how high it was. I can say it was above the shoe." And he proceeds to pull out State's Exhibit number 72. And the DA Hardin asked Deaver whether he had seen it before. Deaver replied that the fireplace tool, called a blowpoke, was presented to him by the Durham police detective Art Holland. He asked me if an instrument like this could produce stains like on the step number 15, Deaver said. Another similar bloodstain was also found near Kathleen Peterson's left leg. Deaver said he pressed the hooked end of the tool into a bloody paper towel and then against a poster board. It could have left such marks. And while processing the scene on December 9, 2001, Deaver looked for such a tool but found no fireplace tools in the sitting room near the kitchen. But when he went back June 27, 2002 to do more investigation, a fireplace set was there. And at the end of the day, the DA, Hardin, reached the question that he had been building toward for a whole week. He said, "Do you have a conclusion as to what happened in the stairwell on the early morning of December 9, 2001? "Yes, I do," Deaver replied. Deaver swung the silver pointer to show how an attacker standing outside the stairwell used a weapon to strike Kathleen Peterson. Face down on the stairs, she was hit twice more. Then she got up, bleeding heavily. At some point, she is standing in her own blood, Deaver said. Then her head forcibly hit 2 steps. Someone began cleaning up. There should have been bloodstains on step number 17. Deaver said, "In my opinion, the blood has been purposely removed after the victim came to rest on step number 18. Deaver and Hardin held up Peterson's khaki shorts, the one he was wearing, when emergency workers arrived at 1810 Cedar Street. Someone was trying to destroy or change bloodstains on the front of these shorts," Deaver said. "But the stains still were a textbook case of blood spatter from a beating," he said. In another testimony, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation forensic chemist testified about his analysis of blood found on the pair of khaki shorts Michael Peterson was wearing the night his wife died. And this chemist's agent, John Bender, testified that he was asked to analyze 8 drops of blood found on the inside of the rear right leg of Peterson's shorts, which were covered with his wife's blood. That the blood droplets were wider on the inside of the shorts than the outside, suggesting that the drops were applied to the fabric from the inside, Bender testified. No explanation was offered by the prosecution or the defense as to how blood spatter could have found its way inside Peterson's shorts or what it might mean. Yeah, I felt like that is like another huge thing for me too, is like, what about the blood on his shorts? Because how does this fit in, like, how does this fit into the whole thing?
Exactly. How did he get that on his shorts then? If he wasn't there and he was somewhere else for 2 hours after this happened, how did he get the blood on himself?
I know.
Did he say he like kneeled down next to her? As far as I know, he like said he'd never touched her.
Well, that's the thing. They never did any like DNA evidence on this. They never did any DNA testing on her clothes or anything. So we don't even know if he was like touching her at one point or if she has like had DNA evidence on him.
Why? I find myself asking why all the time in all these cases. Why did the police not do this? Why didn't they do that? And there's never any reason. Like, who the fuck is making these decisions?
Seriously.
It should be standard protocol.
You would think that in this type of case that they would, especially if they think it's murder, they would do a DNA testing of Kathleen's clothes to see if Michael's DNA is anywhere on her.
Yeah.
Because there should be his DNA on her. If this is in fact what happened, if she was in fact killed and he was in close proximity with her, or maybe she fought back or something.
The blood didn't just all of a sudden spatter on him.
Yeah.
Like he didn't walk over there and then like accidentally, like it's
how'd the blood get on there?
Him.
Yeah. How'd the blood get on his shorts that he's wearing?
It's so weird. weird.
That's bizarre.
So many of the things too, Michael has no explanation for and just ignores and minimizes them in the documentary.
And the whole blood spatter thing was interesting because in the staircase, they make this Deaver guy look like a complete joke, a complete fool, because David Rudolph attacks him left and right and basically goes after his experiments because he was showing, like, the blood spatter analysts, they do like these experiments to try to show how certain patterns can be made from various different types of injuries and different scenarios. And basically David was able to prove in front of everybody that Deaver basically didn't know what the hell he was doing as a blood spatter analyst, and that his experiments that he was saying was like conclusive to, evidence that this was a murder were a complete joke. There was no science involved whatsoever.
No.
It looked pretty ridiculous. And there's actually video in the staircase of showing Deaver and his team hitting a sponge over a thing to try to create spatters on the wall. It just looks really wonky and really
janky.
Definitely not, janky, and definitely not scientific. And he didn't record things right. He didn't follow any sort of scientific process, which if you're working in blood spatter or any type of forensics, science is literally everything. So the fact that he literally didn't know how to do this was pretty alarming. So I'm trying to see if there's anything I wanted to include from here. So here's some I found a newspaper clipping actually of some of the actual statements that Rudolph said to Deaver, because it was pretty interesting. So Rudolph on August 14th argued that Deaver was no expert. But District Attorney Jim Hardin retorted that Rudolph's question about whether Deaver had passed proficiency tests was a straw man because no such testing exists in the United States. Deaver, Hardin said, has testified as an expert in 60 cases. They can't all be wrong. Deaver defends the experiments he used to form opinions about how Kathleen Peterson died, which included dropping a sponge, beating a sponge, and a styrofoam head, and stomping on bloody clothing. The witness candidly said he would have not given an opinion without the experiment. The experiments are unscientific, and that makes them unreliable. The judge disagreed. Each opinion is reliable and routinely used in his area of expertise, he said. Rudolph asked, did Deaver measure the amount of blood used in his experiments? Did he measure the impact force he applied with the metal rod? Did he take before and after photographs each time? Deaver said no. In one experiment, Deaver struck the sponge to see whether he could replicate the blood stain found on the inside right leg of Peterson's shorts. That led Rudolph to wonder, by the way, what is this? And the video shows Deaver flexing his right leg after the experiment, and SBI agent Susie Barker looking at the inside of his thigh. Barker then throws up her hands, kicks up her heels, and bounds away in an end zone dance. Giggles were floating in the courtroom because literally they looked like they were happy. They're yay, we did it. They recreated exactly what they wanted, but his leg is all at this weird angle. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it was David's what is this? This is literally set up to be exactly what you want the results to be.
Mm-hmm.
So not scientific.
And it's even if you think someone's guilty and you look at it and your professional opinion is you have to be unbiased. That's just such shitty work. And it's stuff like this that just ruins cases. It's so frustrating.
So the other testimony in this case that was extremely important was that of the medical examiner and pathologist, Dr. Deborah Radish, who was an associate state medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Kathleen Peterson, testified Thursday during the grand jury session that the injuries weren't consistent with a fall down the stairs. They were caused by some sort of blunt object, she said in an interview. We don't usually see multiple injuries of that kind of severity in a fall down the steps.
Yeah.
Which is what I kind of thought too, is these are serious injuries, multiple of them from falling.
It really doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And Radish said Kathleen Peterson was wearing a sweatsuit and did not have skin under her fingernails that would suggest a struggle. She declined to say whether the cuts and bruises on her arms and upper body indicated a struggle at the time. An autopsy showed that Kathleen Peterson died of severe injuries to the back of her head. Before calling the investigation into her death as a murder probe, Police said that death was suspicious because of the large amount of blood at the scene, on the front door and on the sidewalk, and on Michael Peterson. And in the last 2 episodes of The Staircase, actually, filmed in 2016, as his legal case finally comes to a close, you might have noticed the lawyers mentioning strangulation injuries discovered in Kathleen Peterson's autopsy. You'd think this would have been a major point of evidence, but for some reason, up until then, it had never been referenced in The Staircase, actually.
Mm-mm.
And a woman by the name Diane Fanning explains the injuries a little bit more detail in her book called Written in Blood. She says Dr. Radish, the state pathologist, moved her examination to the internal neck area and discovered a bloodied fracture with a hemorrhage on the small extension off of the left thyroid cartilage.
I was going to say, when I saw thyroid in the autopsy, I was like, strangulation, dude.
Right.
That makes sense.
It's an injury unlikely to occur in a fall and usually
Definitely
a result
not.
of direct trauma to the bone and was common in strangulation or attempted strangulation. So how'd that injury
How'd
get
she
there?
get injury on her neck and her, if they're saying like she fell backwards and hit her head all these wacky ways, how would she have gotten the neck injury? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
And that's why sometimes you have to trust your gut. And obviously you always have to look at all the evidence and everything, and everyone's guilty or innocent until proven guilty.
Everybody's guilty.
But when you see this scene, something inside of you just goes, wait, no, there's no way. It's just human instinct.
Yeah, it's one of those cases that just completely rips you apart because you're like, well, this, that, and I don't know.
I just can't see it being any other way.
Well, it could be another way.
It could be.
It could be.
Should never say could be. And of course, I'm speaking from my personal opinion too.
Yes.
Just want to remind people.
So, Deborah Radish, the medical examiner, also got to perform another autopsy on Elizabeth Ratliff's exhumed body. And she said that Ratliff's death was inconsistent with a fall down the set of stairs because of the severity and number of lacerations, which were 7 found on her head. Rather, they are indicative of multiple blunt force impacts, either from blows to the head caused by a blunt object or by the head being forcibly struck against a hard surface. She also wrote, "It is further my opinion that these injuries were incurred while Mrs. Ratliff was alive and are of sufficient severity to have caused her death." She noted that the intracranial hemorrhages noted at the first autopsy were primarily the result of blunt trauma rather than any underlying natural disease process. Mm-hmm. So what do you think of this medical examiner? This was very, very damaging testimony to Michael's case. Yeah. It had a huge impact because it's like, so unless this medical examiner has something out for Michael, why would she do that for one?
No, these people are professionals.
And she was basically able to say that seems like good judgment that there was very similar injuries to both Ratliff and Kathleen, and that they were serious enough to cause death.
Yep.
And likely happened before death.
Yeah.
That's pretty damning evidence. That's absolutely. I mean, that's hard to fight, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I'm just so I'm so made up.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's really bad, but
it is bad.
I'm trying to be open-minded, but
it's hard.
I cannot
it's hard.
understand how they just fell and got these injuries. That's just bullshit to me. It's almost offensive. Come on, that did not happen. And I guess maybe there's other theories. We're going to explore some of that.
Yeah.
But I just have such a problem with it. The fact that it happened twice. If it happened once, I think I would be a little more maybe on the not side. But the fact that this happened twice.
How often do you hear about people falling down the stairs and leaving
dying.
scenes like this? Is it that often? I mean, I don't know.
I think if someone falls down the stairs, I think there's probably been deaths, but I definitely don't know of any that have had this much blood and this many lacerations and thyroid damage. Come on.
To the arms and everywhere else. What the hell? So the trial, Michael's trial actually ends on October 10, 2003. And after 4 days of deliberation, the jury found Michael Peterson guilty of first-degree murder of his wife. He was then sentenced to life in prison without the benefit of parole. And all the way up to this point, and even now, Michael Peterson has maintained his innocence.
Yeah.
Saying, I didn't do anything. I'm innocent. I did not believe until the jury clerk read the sentence that I would be convicted. He did not think that.
A brutal scene. It was really upsetting. I feel so sorry for Michael's 2 daughters. Like, think about their life. They're his adoptive daughters.
Mm-hmm.
First, their dad dies. Then their mom dies down a staircase. They get adopted by Kathleen and Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Then Kathleen dies. And then Michael's up for life in prison.
Mm-hmm. So
all 4 parental figures that they have, and they showed them in the courtroom. He wanted them to be there. And it was devastating to watch. It was very sad because they believe their father is innocent.
Yeah.
And so
they've all stood by him. That's major key here is his family, his kids, his sons and his adopted kids have stood behind him and said he's innocent. We believe he never did anything to hurt her.
And it tugs your heartstrings as you're watching because you feel bad. That was when I found myself second guessing things. I started going to, well, maybe he didn't because like his kids love him so much and his grandkids love him so much. And, it's so sad how, but then I think of Kathleen and I'm like, there's no way this didn't happen to her. And you have to like put out all the other stuff aside and fight justice for the victim. You can't just be like, this person is nice and their kids like them, so they're innocent.
We have to know the truth.
Right.
We need to know the truth about what happened. We need
justice for Kathleen.
Right. Absolutely.
If she would want that. So, but I think your vision would be pretty cleared. I mean, pretty foggy being his kids. Obviously, they're not going to want the last person in their life to go to prison.
No.
I mean, for instance, we talked about the latest video on my channel about Alyssa Turney. If you haven't seen it, it's probably my favorite video I've ever done. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
But her sister's in it, Sarah Turney, and for a long time, Sarah thought her dad was innocent and would kind of just ignore what everyone else was saying because this is her only parent.
Well, we all want to think the best of, especially people that we love and care about. We always want to see the good in people for the as human beings, but you have to remember, people are sneaky, lying, deceptive people. People will lie, cheat, steal, to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody is out of the realm of that possibility. Nobody, not one single person. We're all susceptible to being like that. We could definitely be like that.
Right.
In the staircase, he actually said that they lied, they cheated, they did everything to convict me. He basically said that the DA, all the experts, the judge, everybody had it out for him, basically. Because here's an interesting point, is he actually ran for mayor in Durham, actually.
Oh, wow.
He actually tried to run for mayor, and he was a newspaper columnist, so he wrote stuff in the newspaper. Oh. So he claims that they had bias to him based upon his professional experience with them and stuff.
I think it's more that they just wanted justice for Kathleen. I mean, I
didn't seem like they were going after
lied,
him.
they cheated. I mean, you can't lie and cheat on an autopsy. You can't lie and cheat about the evidence. I mean, people are looking. The jury's looking at the actual crime scene themselves. You can't lie. You can't change that. Which I guess they did have some fuck ups with that, though. Remember in the movie they talked about it. I'm not sure if it's in here, but remember there was some photos that were screwed up of the crime scene. Are we going to get into that?
No.
But yeah, there were some. They had one of the people who processes the photos, crime scene photos, on the stand, and there was little weird inconsistencies, like a little spot of blood that actually wasn't in the original photos was there all of a sudden. So it definitely was some sketchiness.
Absolutely,
for
yeah,
sure.
No, and
not that I think he's innocent. I really don't, but I think there was a lot of fuckery.
There is. I mean, I think there's clearly evidence that the police did not process this crime scene. It was contaminated.
Yep.
They didn't deal with the evidence properly. Mm-hmm. They didn't, they made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
In this case and in investigating this case. They did jump to conclusions, I think, very quickly, and then just kind of ruled out all other possibilities and kind of went on a witch hunt for Michael a little bit. I totally get a little bit of that.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
Because in the staircase,
but a witch hunt would mean he's not guilty. I think it's more of trying to convict him because they think he did it, and the evidence,
right?
The
evidence points to him. Yeah,
right.
But the thing that you just brought up, though, the pictures, where they said, the people on the stand were like, that's a computer glitch.
Yeah,
that
they were like, that's a glitch.
There to be all of this extra, like more blood on this next photograph. So there's little things like that they brought forward that was pretty weird and,
just sketchy.
And more shit we'll find out about Dwayne Deaver, the blood analyst guy, later on. But on January 16, 2004, the Supreme Court Judge Orlando Hudson rules in the favor of Caitlin Atwater in her wrongful death lawsuit. So she wins that lawsuit against Michael.
So that means the jury found him guilty in that case.
Yes. Yeah. In the wrongful death lawsuit, yeah, they did. Because then 2 years later, in June of 2006, Michael Peterson files for bankruptcy. And he's completely broke.
Yep. Well, court will do that to you.
Yep. And so they start filing motions that they believe that Michael received an unfair trial and that he deserves a new trial because they felt like there was prejudice against him, probably because of the sexuality stuff. But in September 19th of 2006, the 3-judge North Carolina Court of Appeals panel rejected Peterson's argument that he did not receive a fair trial. So they said they felt like they gave him a fair trial, which
probably not. They needed
probably
to
not
retry
as fair.
it. The trial was a fucking mess.
Yeah, the trial was not good. It was not good. On February 1st, 2007, Michael Peterson and Caitlin Atwater agreed to a $25 million settlement, which...
Damn.
That's crazy.
He's never going to pay that.
No.
What's the point?
Yeah. I don't know. And then in 2007, they reject Peterson's appeal as well. But new info comes along in January of 2011 about none other than Dwayne Deaver, the SBI blood analyst, who was actually fired after an audit showed he was negligent in dozens of tests he performed for the state and showed he had misrepresented blood test results in 34 cases.
That is so bad.
Basically just straight up lied in his reports about what he found.
Yeah, he was straight lying. And if you want to say witch hunt, it applies for Dwayne for sure.
That's true. And this guy started working for the SBI in December 1985. And Deaver was the analyst that had given the testimony in Peterson's trial and told jurors, among other things, that the blood spatter found on the inside of Peterson's shorts could have only gotten there if he was standing over her body and striking her from above as she died. So he was really the one that, sort of set up this idea of murder and this scene of murder when the evidence really can't point to that. There's not enough evidence to say that's what happened. And the prosecution really used this as like the story of what happened. Yeah,
because that is the hardest thing with this case is you can't say exactly what happened. It's like very confusing.
And what's interesting is that Michael's defense team, actually hires the same blood spatter analyst that was in OJ's trial, actually, which is interesting. He's like one of those, high profile analysts. Yeah. And from what he was saying that we saw on the staircase, he was like, that's like, he looked at it as it was an accident, and the blood spatters is from Kathleen coughing.
Yeah.
Which there's got to be a lot of blood to create the blood spatters that were there.
Yeah, and they remember when they were testing for it, they were like getting a bunch of blood or like ketchup and water in their mouth and then coughing. But he would hack at like right in front of the wall and create this kind of spatter. Yeah. But Kathleen's upside down almost in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Is it like a water spout? Like she's just...
There would have had to been a lot of blood.
Yeah, for her to reach
coming out of her
wall.
mouth. Yeah. No, there was blood on the ceiling.
Yeah, and she wasn't even fully in the staircase.
No, and there's blood on the ceiling. How do you cough blood to the ceiling? I mean, you'd have to cough really hard.
Yeah, damn.
So it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
The defense's version of events, but was it exactly like Deaver presented it? I don't know. But Deaver, not only was he somebody that often committed misconduct, but the rest of his unit was too. The whole bloodstain pattern analysis unit was suspended in 2010 after an investigation by the News and Observer found more than 100 cases of misrepresented blood test results between 1986 and 2002. So they were doing this for years. They were just straight up changing test results, probably working with the prosecutors to create whatever results they wanted to create.
Yeah.
And that was damning for a lot of different people. And I think I mentioned it later on here, but because of this new info about Dwayne Deaver and him getting fired, all this misconduct, other cases actually got completely reversed. Convictions got reversed of people that were in prison for murder for life. Because of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So people were going to jail. Innocent people, 100% innocent people went to jail for years because Dwayne Deaver lied.
Innocent as far as we know.
As far as we know, right. And this guy, what a piece of shit.
For real.
Seriously though, like,
you really suck at your job.
Terrible. And then unfortunately this kind of stuff happens more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, you know, in just any type of profession, but the fact that it does happen in law enforcement and, you know, in our criminal justice process is just appalling. It's like, how is this fair whatsoever if literally the prosecution's getting exactly, you know, the right evidence that they want to convict me? Like,
yeah, it's definitely not fair. He needed a new trial for sure. Because
I feel like there's a level of ego involved on the DA's side. Like, the DA doesn't want to lose cases. Like, they want to be right. They want to be the ones that are, you know, winning these cases, not the defense, because that looks good for them. It looks good for their reelection and all that sort of thing. So is it possible that they work together with forensics to try to, you know, get the right tests, get the right results that they want in order to help them win cases?
I wonder if without Deaver's testimony, if the jury still would have convicted him, though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because I still think they may have.
You think so? Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
I think so. I really do.
I wish we could be in that jury room.
Dude, I bet it was like a lot of fighting. Wasn't it like days that it took them?
4 days.
Wow.
But on February 15, 2011, Michael Peterson files a motion for a retrial based on Deaver's termination. And shortly thereafter, Michael's conviction is overturned, and Judge Hudson grants Peterson a new trial, but places him under house arrest. And the retrial is eventually scheduled for May 2017. So
he's been in jail
quite a ways
8
off.
years.
Yeah.
At this point.
8, almost 9 years.
Finally gets out. And in the documentary, it's like he's really struggling in jail.
He looks a lot different. Like 8 years in jail really wore on him. Looks like he's older. He's in his 70s. He's frail. He looks, you know, like he's did some time for sure.
Yeah.
But on February 7th, 2017, news breaks that Peterson, now 73, will plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter in his wife's death in exchange for a sentence of time served.
So an Alford plea.
Right. He'll enter an Alford plea in which he acknowledges that the state has enough evidence to convict him but still maintains his innocence. And with Deaver's testimony obviously off the table, the state decided the best way to get justice for Kathleen was to offer Michael Peterson a deal to get him to at least plead guilty to something.
And he was really hesitant to do that. He kept saying
he wanted
he wouldn't
to
do it.
He was thinking about fighting it and just being like, fuck it, go to trial.
Going to trial.
Do it again. Because he insisted, I'm innocent. He felt, but by that time, him and his lawyer, David, they were like, dude, you're not going to get a fair trial. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, so there's no point in, he's like, you might get the same result. You might get convicted, which like you just said,
that shows
he could have.
They knew that. He was smart. David Rudolph was smart enough to know that the jury, whether they had that blood spatter analysis or not, that is not the only thing that makes him guilty to people. So you're taking your chances. Like, obviously, it'd be better without the blood spatter stuff.
You can end this now and avoid any chance of going back in. I think
eventually the crew he was working with started to think he was guilty. Like that. It seems obvious to me. Especially there's some of them that I'm just like, you look like you're staring at him like, dude, what the hell?
Well, his whole team, pretty much, including David, all are not. They all don't like go around and be like, he's definitely innocent. I mean, they say what they say for him, but they all are like, yeah, maybe. Like they're like,
weird.
There's some weirdness to it. Absolutely.
Come on, I want like an explanation for, for it happening twice. I just can't get over that. That just solidified it for me. You know, I was just like, God.
This is really interesting, though, and I wanted to read this because this is the official court document. I'm not going to read all of it, but This is the document for his Alford plea to the judge. And this is the way they explain their case for wanting this Alford plea. This is from David Rudolph. He says, Michael Peterson is innocent of the murder of Kathleen Peterson. From the beginning of the investigation into Mrs. Peterson's death and throughout his now 15-year battle with the criminal justice system, Mr. Peterson has steadfastly maintained his innocence at all times. He continues to do so now. He did not kill Kathleen Peterson. He did not attack Kathleen Peterson. He did not strike Kathleen Peterson. He is not responsible for her death in any way. 2. Despite his innocence, he was convicted of first-degree murder in October 2003 and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Although the appellate courts found that the Durham police had violated Mr. Peterson's constitutional rights and that prosecutors had engaged in improper arguments, they nevertheless found these fundamental errors to be harmless. His conviction was therefore affirmed. As a result, Mr. Peterson was imprisoned for more than 8 years until Judge Hudson found in December 2011 that the prosecution's star witness, SBI agent Dwayne Deaver, had committed perjury, which he did, and granted Mr. Peterson a new trial. It has now been 5 years since that ruling, and this case began when Michael Peterson was 58 years old. He is now 73. But most importantly, what the events of the last 15 years have shown Mr. Peterson is that the criminal justice system cannot be trusted to do justice. Law enforcement officers, prosecutors, and medical examiners do not necessarily search for the truth. Once they have adopted a theory of a person's guilt, a theory in this case created by former SBI agent Dwayne Deaver, they ignore evidence that is inconsistent with their theory and twist facts to support their theory. Yeah. This is why literally hundreds of innocent people have been exonerated by DNA evidence over the past 15 years. It is also why Mr. Peterson believes that an Alford plea, which resolves this matter while allowing him to maintain his innocence, is in his best interest at this time. And in this, he continues to go on talking about the misconduct by law enforcement, basically claiming that they are the ones that caused this trial to go sour for as far as fairness goes, and ultimately led to a conviction of Michael.
So Josh, like, just random question. What do you think as far as him getting off? Like, do you think without, sorry, I'm like trying to word this, but just in your opinion, not in a court of law, do you think he's guilty or innocent?
I'm honestly like very torn with this, and I want to give more of my thoughts at the end after we cover the theories. Well, because I don't know. I really don't know. I can't feel, my gut tells me he's guilty because there's just too many weird oddities about this that the chances of them being just weird oddities is pretty crazy, I feel like.
Right.
But as far as the evidence presented to the court and evidence against Michael that links him to it, that shows motive, I think it's a bit iffy, a little bit. But I just wanted to mention this. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to mention this about the medical examiner because that was like the most damaging thing for him. But there's also allegations of misconduct on her part as well. David says that the North Carolina medical examiner stated in the autopsy report that the cause of death of Kathleen Peterson was blunt force trauma of the head. Deborah Radish claimed at the trial that this finding reflected the conclusion that she personally had reached. Specifically, she testified under questioning by the district attorney about the autopsy reports as follows. The question was, and does it reflect the actual findings and conclusions and diagnoses that you made in this case? Yes, it does. After Michael Peterson's trial, however, defense counsel was authorized by the statute to inspect the district attorney's file. In that file was a note written by Assistant District Attorney Frida Black, which stated that during a meeting on April 8, 2003, just before the trial began, Dr. Radish told Black that she did not believe that Kathleen Peterson died of brain trauma and that Dr. Butts made her back up her findings re blood loss as the cause of death on the autopsy because he did not agree. The Durham District Attorney's Office never disclosed this to the defense counsel or the court. This critical impeachment evidence, which went to the heart of Dr. Radish's credibility and the veracity of her trial testimony. So basically, the prosecutors allowed Dr. Radish's false testimony to stand uncorrected. So this is very fishy, and it could signify that there may have been some behind the scenes thing going. There could have been some falsifying of things, but why? And it could just be coincidence that happened. There's just a lot of like weird oddities, like I just said, about this whole thing. But on February 24th, 2017, Michael Peterson pleads guilty to manslaughter and walks out of the courthouse a free man using the Alford plea. His plea, although technically guilty, did not officially solve the mystery of Kathleen's death, obviously. The words Alford plea are meaningless. Alford Smallford, it means nothing. Guilt, Kathleen's sister said. Candace Zamperini yelled at Michael during the trial. Yeah. It's in the staircase.
She was really pissed.
She was super pissed.
Yeah.
You brutally took the life of a woman who provided for you, guarded your children. She loved you. They're yelling at him like pissed. And that's the thing. That's another thing. I'm like, Kathleen's family. I mean, could it just be Kathleen's family didn't even seem to like consider that she might have fell. It seemed like because
they know it's bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It drives me insane. At the end of the day, this cannot be a staircase fall. It doesn't make sense. Like, I'd like to hear a different theory,
Yeah.
I would feel the same way if that was my mother or my sister. I would be like, there's no way show me how she did this. Show me how she got those injuries. And I think the biggest piece of evidence is the damn autopsy. It's just too weird.
Yeah. The comparison between the two bodies was very odd. The similarities were odd. The circumstances were odd. It really just, I don't know. And the blood on his shorts, that's unexplained. The 2 hours that is gone in the timeline.
Yeah, that's too weird.
Like, what the hell?
But at the same time, I don't know if there was enough. I just want to make it clear to people that I'm not saying he should have been guilty in a court of law. I'm saying I personally think that, but I'm not sure if there's enough evidence to prove it in court, So I honestly think the Alford plea had to be done, and he should have gotten out just because the trial was such garbage. I wish they tried it again. I would have
liked to see another trial for this, because I think with like the actual fact, but the problem is that the evidence was all contaminated. Like, they didn't seal it up right. Over the years, it got lost. Things was not taken care of the way that it should have. So that was another way that they got this Alford plea, was that they were basically like, the police didn't take care of the evidence. They didn't preserve it. It's contaminated. They can't use it. So what are they? There's not enough to even try him at this point, is what they tried to say. So I don't know, man. It's pretty wild. Yeah. So getting into now the theories about it. So we'll specifically talk about some more of the actual details. So this is some reasons for why would Michael want to murder his wife. Well, there's some interesting facts here. Michael and Kathleen, like we mentioned, lived in the mansion. They were financially supporting their 5 children from previous relationships. Michael was just an author, wrote a couple books, like we said, but did not make a lot of money doing that at all. And Kathleen, by 2001, was making around $150,000 a year at Nortel, but it wasn't enough because the couple owed $143,000 on their credit cards. That's a lot on their credit cards. And they could barely pay their children's college tuition fees. They were drowning in bills. At their peak, Kathleen's Nortel shares have been worth around $2.5 million, and by December 2001, the company was crashing and they were worth only $50,000.
Damn.
So they didn't have much cash at all. Mm-mm. They were cash poor. But Kathleen did have a life insurance policy and a pension worth $1.4 million in the event of her death.
Motive.
Clearly could be motive there, absolutely. So what did actually happen on the night of December 9, 2001? Because everybody has their own story, and let's recap real quick. The prosecution speculated that the murder weapon was a blowpoke, a hollow rod with a spike at the end designed to stoke a fire.
I feel like the biggest problem the defense had the prosecution had was coming up with exactly what they thought happened. Their story isn't like very, it's not super convincing or anything.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like completely make sense. So I think that was one of their biggest issues they had, was trying to like figure out what the murder
really
weapon
sure.
was.
It's like
because the murder weapon, she had these lacerations, but she didn't have like serious brain
no
contusions,
fracture,
right?
Yeah, no brain swelling, no fracture to the skull, so it wasn't.
So it couldn't have been hit with something heavy.
So it was like golf club.
My
or
first
bat.
guess when Josh and I were watching this was a violin, like a
bow.
Yeah, from a violin. I don't know. That just because it seemed like a whip. Like she was like
something
whipped with
bendy.
something.
So like, and these blow pokes are kind of bendy. Like they're
Yeah.
kind of lightweight and they're kind of like that thin metal, like aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
So because basically the medical examiner also said that it seems like somebody had whipped him over her head. Like they kind of whipped over the head because they had that metal that was, you know, flexible
Right.
enough. Because just the way that they looked is there these curved lacerations. But this is the weird thing about the blow poke thing is very weird because
Yeah.
the Petersons definitely owned this tool.
She
But-
was like super into her blow poke, right?
Yeah.
Or it was her sister had given her this blow poke,
Yeah.
and she'd given it to multiple people in their family because she just like loved this blow poke, which basically is a thing that you use to blow fire onto or blow
the
air
fire.
onto a fire and
Yeah.
stoke it.
Right.
So
Stoke
she
the
had one
log
of these, and it was like one of her favorite things that she had because it's like from her sister and stuff. And at the time of the crime, this thing is missing.
It's not found on the day in December of 2001, but David's lawyer randomly produces a blow poke in court claiming it had been in the garage all along. This was very weird too. You want to explain this?
Yeah, and when they were filming this, basically all of a sudden they're like, okay, we just got a call from Michael Peterson. It's Sunday,
Yeah,
so normally you
yeah.
don't work with him or anything, but we're going over there now because
He found the blow
blow
poke.
poke. And it was actually his son that found the blow poke.
Mhm.
So I think it was in the basement, like near
It was in the garage.
in the garage.
Mhm.
And it was just standing there.
In
the
a
thing was
corner.
just standing there, almost like, come find me. It was really weird. It wasn't hidden under anything. It was standing straight up against a wall. With nothing else around it. It's very weird how it just kind of appeared. And this is something that, you know, obviously people are looking for, the prosecution's looking for, police are looking for. They didn't just miss it.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this is like not good for Michael
because it
it's
just
like,
popped up all of a sudden. But if it's not good for Michael, he might think it was because obviously
well, yeah, well, it was good and
it could
bad
have been
because
placed there
it
by
could,
him.
right?
So maybe he had some thinking behind it. Because that's the biggest problem is the murder weapon's missing, so you can't say whether or not he used it or not.
Right. So the defense did a great job at presenting this as like, oh, this is just the blow poke. It's been in the garage for a long time. It's got cobwebs, dust. They got a professional photographer to take pictures of it to show how old, how long it's been sitting there. But I feel like the brother was like, yeah, I don't ever remember seeing it there. It just kind of conveniently showed up there.
I will say the brother kind of just like disappeared after that.
Yeah.
He was like seemed really sketched out. Like he was like, yeah, I just
They all
found
act
it. It was
sketchy.
just sitting there. Like I think he even thought that was weird. Like I've been down there plenty of
Yeah,
times.
it's
I've
like-
never seen this. This blow poke is like on everyone's mind for years. Everyone's talking about
Where's
it.
the blow poke?
There's no way that you would just not see it when you're down there. And then they kind of stopped interviewing him after that. Like he got kind of sketchy and like wasn't really part of the documentary after that. Weird. I think that is just too weird. And then I think he may have, had one.
Well,
and
we
like
find out later that he had multiple blow pokes.
weird
find out
of
later.
the same type.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. But first, hang on. Let's just talk about this timeline real quick. So
Okay.
if we were to be generous to Michael and say him and his wife go out to the pool at 11:30, and let's imagine they stay there for an hour. That would mean she enters the house at 12:33, starts to climb up the stairs shortly afterwards. Michael Peterson would still have to convince me he stayed by the pool for 2 hours at least in his shorts on a December night before deciding to come inside. Is this credible, do you think?
No,
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. And I think you would go after your wife if she didn't come back.
Here's one possibility. Michael and Kathleen, they watch the movie, they drink their wine. She walks in the house, she has an accident. Michael stays by the pool for a couple hours, then he finds Kathleen lying in a pool of blood with a corona of blood spatters on the wall. He calls 911. He does not say, "My wife, she's covered in blood. There's blood everywhere." He says, "She's had an accident. She fell down the stairs. She's still breathing."
That's
He's
exactly
ticking
what I was
boxes.
thinking is like when he his call is weird to me because of his like what he didn't say. Because if I walked in on someone at the bottom of the stairs, you covered in blood, I'd be like, help, get someone here. He's covered in blood. I think he may have fell. Like, why did he immediately was like, she fell down the stairs?
He knew exactly it seemed like he knew exactly what he was seeing. And of course, you can't really prove this because anybody would be like, well, I was just shocked. I didn't know what to say. I just thought that's what he says. Is
that
like,
thing, because it's like no one knows how they would
how you would
personally
react
act.
or say, but it's so weird that he is so specific about it.
I think you'd mention the blood.
Like he's like, check
with how much blood,
cover
like,
this, cover that.
Just natural for that to come to your head. Yep.
I think so. I think it's totally natural. But here's another scenario. Here's another possibility about what happened. Kathleen was worried about her job. Clearly, the company's not doing well.
Yeah.
On the night she died, she needed to send an email to arrange the next day's conference call. So she left her laptop in the office. She'd have to use Michael's computer. So she rarely went into Michael's office. It was his private space. She'd have to ask him nicely. Kathleen had been worried about Michael. There was something shifty about him. He would say he was going to the gym and he wouldn't come back for hours. For Kathleen, infidelity was a deal breaker. She divorced her first husband when she found out he was seeing someone else. If she ever discovered that Michael was cheating, that was it. Mm-hmm. Too many people who reported on the case. It's clear about what happened around midnight on December 9th. Kathleen went into Michael's study. He couldn't very well stop her. The email was important. She was the breadwinner. Michael must have been silently praying, please don't let her notice what's in the study. For instance, the gay porn on the computer, the explicit pictures in the desk drawer, the email to Brad, a gay escort, and basically finding out that he's bisexual. He'd been having sex with men for years. If Kathleen found out, he'd lose everything. Would Kathleen find a clue to Michael's infidelity? To many, this is what happened. Kathleen sees something. She cracks. She tells Michael the relationship is over. He cracks. And now the events that turn 1810 Cedar Street into a crime scene are set in motion. Mm-hmm. He knows she's right. He hits her. He hits her again. She passes out. She's bleeding heavily. It's after midnight on December 9, 2001. Michael Peterson looks at his wife, at all the blood, and he considers his options. And at 2:40 a.m., he picks up the phone. So,
I think the fact that, this happened to someone else makes it even weirder, because wouldn't he have, that would mean he'd probably have pre-planned it or had thought, like, if she ever finds out, I'm going to do this exact same thing to her because I know how to make it look like a staircase fall. I don't know. He would have had to think about it. It's not like he'd have to get her in the exact right spot and
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty crazy to pull off.
Yeah.
And well, that's the thing. And that's where it's I don't know if he's guilty, because it's there's just not enough to say he did anything.
Mm-hmm.
He was there. He was the last person to see her alive, but we don't know if he attacked her or not 100%. We just don't know. We don't know. But he was, I think he definitely, I think he's a liar. I think he's a pathological liar. Mm-hmm. So I think he might have lied about a lot of stuff, but that doesn't make you a killer. You're a liar, but not necessarily a killer. So the whole
but
and that's
the autopsy
brutal
makes
killing.
you a killer, or I don't know. It just shows that she was killed, didn't just fall, at least. So it's okay, so if it wasn't Michael, did someone come in and do this? That's weird too. Wouldn't they have left some evidence? Wouldn't there be evidence of the house being broken into or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, this is really interesting. I think will kind of help present the other side. This is David Rudolph's opinion of the fact that the prosecution in Michael's trial couldn't prove that he was guilty. So they tried to prove that he was the kind of person who may have killed his wife. And here's what David Rudolph said about that. He said there was no evidence of motive that ever stood up to cross-examination.
Why? The motive is that she has a $1.4 million life in policy.
Yeah,
they're drowning in bills, and he's cheating on her.
Which
Duh.
I don't,
that seems like a motive to me.
Yeah.
Come on. That's ridiculous if that can't be considered a motive. There's definitely a financial motive. There's definitely infidelity.
Here, he explains this. He says, they started off trying to prove a financial motive. That was completely undermined by the cross-examination of their financial expert and the fact that during the time the Petersons were allegedly under financial stress, Kathleen was deferring her salary into a bank account. I mean, literally not taking a large portion of her salary so that it could be saved for the future.
Huh.
The other motive, which was allegedly that Kathleen found some email correspondence on Michael's computer on the night of the death, revealing his extramarital affairs, was undermined by the cross-examination of their own computer expert, who testified that there was no evidence that she ever accessed Michael's computer after the call with her coworker, which was completely normal. Which, that's not that surprising, because
I was going to ask if there's any evidence that she was actually on the computer. There's not.
She would have to like literally probably, I mean, you could.
So that's why it's just a theory.
It's not like there's an activity tracker on the computer that tracks every motion on the machine. So she could have totally opened an email, closed it, and no one would know. You know? But David says, so there is no motive. There was no murder weapon. The whole thing inconsistent with the way that they had lived their life, and it was inconsistent with what they were doing that night, which was drinking wine and watching a movie at 10 o'clock at night, as confirmed by an independent witness, a doctor who happened to visit the house with Michael's son Todd at about 10 p.m. that night.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this was not in the documentary either. Given all that, what they were left with was A, trying to tarnish Michael's character, and B, relying on this death in Germany, which there was absolutely no evidence Michael had anything to do with. It really became a character assassination.
And in some ways, I see his point that he's, you know, it's hard because, like, there isn't, I guess, any evidence that there's evidence that
circumstantial evidence
may not have fallen and was probably attacked. It's probably foul
play. But how do we know that
we don't know if it was Michael that did it?
Could have been somebody else that murdered them, for all we know.
Technically, but it's like we're not idiots. I don't know. That's just, it's hard for me because, like, I don't think there is enough evidence to prove that he did it. I really don't think that. As much as I personally really think he did.
Right. Well,
not enough for court.
But the fact that he did get a conviction is interesting. And I would love to, like, I wish there was like a jury report that they would release that would be like all of them giving their like thoughts about this, because I would like to know what they thought of it being there firsthand, like, and see how it matches up with our thoughts. But is Michael Peterson really capable of murder? Well, one idea that I even thought of too was that Michael was a veteran, which doesn't make you a murderer, but this is interesting. So in interviews, Michael Peterson has said he went to war because he wanted to see combat, and he had aspirations about writing the great American war novel. After leaving the Marine Corps, Peterson wrote 3 novels and co-wrote a biography and another novel. He parlayed the success that followed his initial novels into prominence in Durham, including as a newspaper columnist, like we've mentioned before. And he unsuccessfully ran for mayor in 1999 and then city council in November 2001, a month before Kathleen was found dead. So he was a socialite. He was very involved in the community. So it makes you wonder if he could be, you know, there could be some, you know, somebody that has it out for him in the, you know, the court system maybe. But in the fall of 1999, Peterson, along with 4 others, were vying to be Durham's next mayor. For years, Peterson had claimed a severe war injury to his right leg. He also said he had received 2 Purple Hearts in Vietnam. At the time, the News and Observer took a closer look at those claims. Marine Corps files show no record of Peterson receiving a Purple Heart medal, which is given to soldiers injured or killed in combat.
Dude, if he lied about that, that's
he lied about getting a Purple Heart and being shot in combat.
That's really bad to lie about getting a Purple Heart. It's like really, really stupid.
Again, he's definitely like a pathological. He's been lying his way through life for a long time.
Yep.
In various forms, not just relationships, which is interesting, which goes to his character. Yes. Here's an excerpt from his 1999 story. He said in an interview, Peterson had said he had received one of the Purple Hearts when a landmine blew up near him in Vietnam. A radio operator stepped on the mine and died from the blast, he said, and the shrapnel ripped his right leg. Michael said, I was shot once. The other was a landmine. My radio operator stepped on a mine. But when confronted with his military records that show the injury occurred while he was stationed in Japan 2 years later, Peterson disclosed that the leg injury occurred in a 2-car accident in Japan. He said not even his family and closest friends knew the truth. Michael said, it's a cover. I admit it. My second wife, Kathleen, she doesn't know. I'm going to discuss it with her today. This was back before his murder trial. So he straight up lied about his war injuries, how he got them, and probably about what he did in the Vietnam, like what he did during his time in the military.
It is interesting to note for those of you, I know I have a lot of astrology fans out there. So for those of you that believe in astrology, he's a Scorpio, which is the biggest, well, not liars, but they're good at keeping shit secret. They're like very stealthy and they don't share all information. They're not very forthcoming with things and they know how to keep secrets really well. That's what Scorpios are like really known for. So just thought that was interesting for those of you who.
No, that's great insight into that.
Great insight.
Thank you for that insight.
You are welcome.
All right. So here's the defense's theory basically wrapped up. Here's what they said happened. They said Michael and Kathleen go out to the pool area. They drink their wine. Kathleen goes in to send her email. She's not bothered by Michael's bisexuality. She accepted it long ago. And it's no threat to their marriage. It's just sex, which, again, how many people are cool with that? Obviously, people are cool with that. But, in this scenario, some people say she would never be cool with that, I think, including her sisters. But anyways, Kathleen enters the house, walking in her flip-flops. She starts to climb the steep back stairs, but she's taken in Valium as well as the wine, and she's wobbly on her feet. She falls. She cracks her head open. She's gushing blood. She gets up again. She slips in the blood, cracks her head open again, lies there for a while, bleeding profusely, gets up again. She's dazed. She falls again. And according to Henry Lee, the blood spatter expert that the defense hired, he said that he basically said the account events were that the blood gets into the mouth and then she coughed it out. And he, again, demonstrated that in court. Meanwhile, Michael's smoking his pipe by the pool. For some reason, he doesn't find Kathleen until about 2:38. She's still breathing, so he places the 911 call. So even if that's true, that's still wild. Like, that's still crazy.
Mm-hmm.
2 hours he's out there. I mean, I guess he could be sitting out there for 2 hours just like hanging out, but I don't know. That's crazy. So those are kind of the two main theories. Now, this one did not make it into the staircase. I'm surprised it didn't because it's super interesting.
Yeah.
And honestly, crazy. I'm not ruling this out. This is
I'm not
wild.
Either.
This is really wild. So this is called the owl theory. And this is what makes this so bizarre. So they're in North Carolina. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say I'm very, very interested in why they didn't use this.
Yeah,
I don't get why the defense used she fell down the stairs like so hard. Like, why? I feel like it would have been more believable because you just want to, cast a shadow of doubt that Michael did it. So why wouldn't, I don't know.
And they did find pine needles and owl feathers in her hand.
This is possible.
Which means that she may have come in contact with an owl. But it didn't come to light until 2009 because an attorney brought forward this new theory, citing compelling evidence to prove that Peterson was in fact not responsible for Kathleen's death, but instead he claimed that owl was to blame. And according to the National Audubon Society, the owl theory posts that a barred owl, a common species in Durham, got entangled in Kathleen's hair, causing serious injuries like the removal of part of her scalp and caused her to fall to her death down the stairs. The society says Kathleen's autopsy revealed 7 lacerations, including very deep ones in the back of her scalp, and pine needles stuck to one of her hands, which both held clumps of her own hair. Plus, the strands in the victim's left hand contained 3 small feathers. When you look at her injuries, they do appear consistent with being made by an owl's talons.
Yeah,
and they really do. They look like forks almost.
They really do.
They have like a trident look
looks
to
like
them.
A talon.
But Michael's attorney said she would hate to risk her client's life or future on that argument if they were to go to another trial to bring that in. But according to local news attorney Lawrence Pollard, filed a new motion in Superior Court in 2009 that stated, thus it is new and compelling evidence, probably the single most important piece of evidence found so far in this case because it connects the attack by a bird with the victim and it is held in the victim's hand. And no motion for a new trial came because of this evidence that was brought forward. So,
well, the other woman, Elizabeth Ratliff, had similar lacerations on her head. So did an owl attack her too?
And also, so the owl flies inside the house?
Yeah, it seems weird.
And attacks her in the
like
house?
Really smart.
Wouldn't an owl like I could see maybe an owl made those marks, and then she went in and then I don't know.
I don't think that makes sense. But it is weird that she had feathers in her own hair because that would definitely you'd be grabbing, trying to grab it. You'd get your own hair in your hands. So if she was outside on
That
an
could have
outdoor
happened.
staircase, I would really
Yeah.
probably believe this.
The fact that it's like all the way inside.
But again,
In
I
that
just keep coming
staircase.
back to Elizabeth Ratliff in Germany. It's too similar. It's too weird.
It is weird. It's very weird. Here's something also weird too that the staircase leaves out too is his sons were in legal trouble as well. I'll kind of breeze through this, but basically at 19, Michael's son Clayton Peterson was arrested and charged with planning a small bomb in a Duke University office. And he was convicted in federal court of possessing a destructive device after admitting he broke into the building and placed a pipe bomb submerged in gasoline in a closet on the second floor. So, and he went to prison for that too.
Wow.
And not only that, but his other brother, these are Michael's biological kids, Todd Peterson, was also interesting. So Todd graduated from NC State University and worked briefly for Nortel Networks also. He then started a website, Futazi.com, which offered tips to high schoolers on kissing, sex, drunk friends, and makeup.
That's weird.
While Todd said the website was to provide advice to teens like his sisters, some said the content and photos of the scantily dressed girls was inappropriate for that age group. The site also introduced Todd's alter ego, bodybuilder Roman Croft, with before and after photographs of him in boxer shorts. But on the night of Kathleen's death, Todd had been at a party with friends and came to the house with 4 friends after police had arrived. In testimony, police made it clear that Todd wasn't cooperative that night. A former Durham officer testified that he had to ask Todd not to talk to others, but that Todd continued to do so. The police moved 2 women who were with Todd into another room, and then at one point, Todd tried to signal out the window. The detective testified. So, weird. It could just be teenage activity, but Kathleen just died.
Yeah.
This is a murder scene or a death scene,
Mm-hmm.
Here's something else interesting as well. The search for the blowpoke. The blowpoke is probably one of the weird things about this. So the Durham district attorney, Jim Hardin, said in an interview that he still doesn't believe the blowpoke that the Peterson's defense team presented in court was the blowpoke that Kathleen's sister gave the couple. Hardin contended that Peterson beat Kathleen with a blowpoke or something like that, but law enforcement was unable to find it. Zamperini, Kathleen's sister, had said she gave Kathleen and her other siblings a blowpoke many years ago. And it wasn't until in 2003 that David Rudolph actually introduced a blowpoke that they said was discovered by Clayton.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and Hardin says he was like, how could I have just been there? He had officers measure every inch of that house.
Dude. That thing was
house.
The main thing that they needed for their case. There's no way they didn't look for it as hard as they could. And we don't even know if that's the right one. Because they were like, see, there's nothing on it. It could have been this, just another version of the same blowpoke.
Check this out, though. This is really interesting. This is what I was trying to get to, actually. So after the trial had been over for about 3 weeks, the DA's office received a call from a federal prosecutor's office. Someone had received a call from a lady in Vermont saying someone named Michael Peterson had ordered 3 blowpokes before Rudolph introduced the blowpoke. They said that this lady sent us the shipping order and credit. And apparently the timelines didn't appear to match up, but requests the DA's office and clerk's office made last year to view that the receipt were unsuccessful. The article said the order was made before the blowpoke showed up in the court, but it's not clear that that is accurate. But anyways, it said 2 pokes, which cost $82.50 each, were shipped by overnight air on September 29, 2003. The pokes sent to Peterson were new ones made in China, not antiques, she said. So they think that maybe
he replaced it.
Right.
Let it
which
get
is
old,
possible.
leave it somewhere where they would get, spider webs and shit.
Right.
And then be like, oh, look. I think I would believe it more if it was hidden underneath some stuff or something. But the fact that this thing was just sitting out there, hello, there's no way the police missed it. I just don't believe that. I think he staged it there to try to prove, there's nothing on it. There's no dents in it. But you don't even know if that is the one.
We don't know. I mean, you could have easily have multiple ones. He could have ditched the one that he used to murder her, and then had these others on, ready to go.
And who just buys 2 blowpokes with overnight shipping? Stop.
So if
You
that
need
wasn't
to poke your fire that bad. Come
right,
on.
exactly.
Come on. With overnight air.
Desperation, like get it here now. I need it here now.
And I need 2 of them, even though I have 1 fireplace.
Maybe if Michael planted that, maybe he thought if all of a sudden this blowpoke shows up and it's supposedly the murder weapon, the prosecution is saying that maybe it'll help my case.
Yeah, and maybe he acted like, oh no, I can't believe they found it. This is going to ruin it for me. But maybe in his head he knew. Because we can show that there's no proof that this was used. There's no dents. There's no
the cobwebs.
Blood,
he was
no
very
DNA.
adamant about all that.
Yeah.
Remember how he was acting? Like they show all this in the staircase, by the way.
Yeah, of them literally the day they found it.
It's really interesting because Michael,
he was acting bizarre.
Just
wasn't he?
Yeah, he just was like,
I can't think this is going to be good.
But he doesn't seem like that worried about it, or he's not like, I don't know. He just acts very strange, I think, throughout the whole thing.
None of them bring up the fact, like, why don't you guys think the police found these? You really think it's just been down there? Come on. That's just, I can't even begin to pretend on this. There's no way that they missed that. I'm sorry.
I just can't see it. If that was there, they would have found it. It was literally sitting in a corner. There's just no way.
I think he planted it thinking it would help him.
That's fishy. But
he was trying to act like, oh, this is going to be bad for me because it makes him look even more guilty if they're like, oh, look, they finally found it. Like,
yeah. No, it's so weird. So weird. Something else that was, so when we get to the Alford plea, Kathleen Peterson's sisters, Candace and Lori, were extremely outspoken about this whole thing, and they didn't want him to get out of jail, but they also didn't want him to get a new trial. So they were actually in it because the DA said that they were going to go with basically what the victim's family wanted to do. And it was Candace and Lori that actually agreed to the Alford plea as long as Michael admits to murdering Kathleen Peterson, which he sort of did, but not really probably the way that they would want him to do it. So,
right.
Michael later on also admitted about lying about certain things during his trial. When discussing his bisexuality and how this revelation affected his first trial, Michael Peterson admitted that he didn't initially tell the entire truth. I was lying about certain things, he says. I mean, it was part of who I was not trying to reveal. And Peterson talks more about his sexuality and reiterates that his wife knew about his sexual preferences.
There's no proof she did.
Which there's no proof she did. Yeah,
and
exactly.
I will say, while he was talking, he was like, I'm pretty sure it was an unspoken thing that she knew.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. He never said, yeah, I've told her about 100%. It. We've talked about it. She's acknowledged it.
Here's how she reacted. No.
She didn't know. She did not know.
No. Yeah, he really did try to play that up as like, oh yeah, it was cool. It was like this totally like kind of unspoken thing we had.
Yeah.
But Rudolph implies that the police worked with the prosecution about the murder weapon. He actually does. And he says that the tool was missing for weeks, but was found and entered into evidence toward the end of the trial. Was found in the Peterson's garage covered in cobwebs, which the defense pointed to as evidence that it wasn't really the murder weapon. But during Peterson's 2017 case with Eccles, who was the attorney, or Eccles was the new DA at the time, his attorney, David Rudolph, revealed that there's another reason to be suspicious of the fire poker. The alleged weapon was found by the police 2 days before the prosecution came up with its theory. Though he doesn't completely make the connection, Rudolph hints that the police may have collaborated with the prosecution, which is...
What? I'm confused. Can you explain that in your own words? What?
The police found it 2 days before the prosecution came up with its own theory.
They found the blowpoke too?
Yeah.
I think they did, didn't they? I think I remember hearing that too. They had found one, or I'm so confused. There's so much sketchiness.
Yeah, the whole blowpoke thing is weird, but I think he's just more hinting at the fact that he thinks the police may have, planted evidence because of the whole thing that we talked about earlier with the photographs and everything. I think he just was reiterating that he thought that there was this idea that there was some conspiracy between the prosecution and the police kind of working together to produce this evidence.
But he says that
he's talking about
it. Yeah,
he's talking about right. He's talking about because they presented the blow poke as the evidence. So he's saying that 2 days before.
That they found it.
Yeah, right.
So how does he know that?
Yeah, I don't know how he knows this, actually.
Because that would be a really big deal.
That would be a really big deal. Huh. Interesting. But Michael Peterson had a book deal ready to go if he was found not guilty, which is interesting. Because he was a writer, and many have said that his ego is the one that craves the spotlight. So it's possible that he thought that this was going to be kind of a slam dunk for him, and maybe, if this whole financial motive was in fact correct, he was going to get Kathleen's life insurance, and then he was also going to write this book if he got acquitted, kind of like OJ did. It's almost like it's some similarities to OJ, don't you think?
Yeah.
So, and the fact that and some have said that there was this deal in motion, but as soon as he was found guilty, they retracted the offer of the book, which is not totally unheard of, and we've seen that before, but it's interesting. But this was something that we wanted to bring up that was in the docuseries that was really just chilling, honestly. Kathleen's sisters actually went to Michael's college library, and they actually were able to dig up some old writings that Michael had done. And again, he's an author. He writes novels, so this could be completely just made up. But he talks a lot about murder, about death and killing. It's very like violent stuff. It's very interesting.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to confirm this. It sounds like the police found a blowpoke back in June 2002 in the boiler room, took it outside, photographed it, and then hid it in the garage where it was later found.
Well, that's what he's saying. That's what the defense is saying.
Think
yes, right.
That they did. But
right.
Is there proof for that?
No, that's the thing about this is there's not proof. Again, it was really poorly executed as far as the investigation goes and gathering evidence.
Yeah.
So is there a possibility that could happen? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, people are going to speculate about it because we just don't know. There's no evidence. Like, there's nothing to prove that.
Yeah.
But that was David's personal opinion about it. Because it seems like David's kind of buying into this idea that maybe the DA and, whoever else might have had it out for Michael too because of his previous, mayoral runs and, all that kind of stuff. I think we mentioned this already, but they didn't mention this in the staircase at all, is that Michael Peterson didn't remain single for all the years following his wife's Kathleen's death. He actually developed a relationship with Sophie Brunette, the editor of the documentary filming his case. Which is interesting, don't you think?
Yeah. The person who's editing the footage? Yeah.
So, yes. I mean, that pretty much encompasses the whole thing as far as like what we know. The staircase just has a lot more like personal scenes, more scenes of him. There's just a lot of unrelated crime. There's just unrelated stuff that they filmed and put in the staircase docuseries. Like there's whole episodes that are just like them prepping for the trial, things like that. So I think we did a pretty good job of condensing all of that and putting it into, one episode for you. Well, it's a lot of stuff.
2 hours, but it was over 13-hour documentary.
Right. So after looking at everything and just encompassing this whole case as a whole, looking at the defense's theory that it was an accident, a fall, to the owl theory, to this was murder, what do you think? I mean,
I'm so interested to see what people out there think, because I think it's going to be really split. But I seriously think he's guilty. I seriously think that. I just don't see a scenario where this would happen twice in this kind of manner. I think it'd be different if Elizabeth Ratliff fell down the stairs and didn't have the same injuries as Kathleen. If there wasn't a lot of blood, she just fell, and I think then I could question it. I seriously think that I'm not sure what I would feel if I didn't know about Elizabeth Ratliff. That for me, that just adds so much.
Right.
I don't know if it's possible to find him guilty based on what evidence there is, but I just feel that he is. And yeah, he seems like a really sweet guy. Clearly his children love him. But that doesn't make someone innocent. And, as we know from history, like look at Ted Bundy. He was like everyone loved
some
him.
of the most charismatic, like, people that everybody loves end up being like the worst, the worst ones. Like,
right.
It's like you can't judge a book by its cover. You don't know his internal contents. You don't know what,
and there were
what
parts
secrets
of him
he has.
that he was keeping secret. So we definitely know he's capable of like keeping a secret.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I just really think that at the end of the day, I just think about Kathleen and how unfair this was. And I just can't come to the conclusion that she fell. Like 100%. I'm more convinced of the owl thing, or even a random intruder, I guess. But there's no evidence for that. But I guess the owl thing. I mean, what do you think?
The owl thing makes a lot of sense for me. It does.
Yeah, it does.
And especially learning that it is fairly common for owls to do this sort of thing.
People. Yeah.
To attack heads too.
Yeah.
And if you look at the actual injuries themselves, they don't look like injuries that could be caused by whacking somebody with a pole over their head. Like,
so then
how does it
did
like
the owl just leave?
So, and the fact that she has pine needles and feathers in her hand, like, what is that about?
But
is that just her like grabbing by accident?
What was there a bird or an owl at Elizabeth Ratliff's murder too?
No,
she has the same
that's
injuries.
the thing, and that's where I'm like, then that again for me too. The whole fact that Elizabeth Ratliff was found dead at the bottom of stairs just just throws you through a loop, because it's like, what are the chances? Like, what are the chances that happens
I think
twice?
the defense theory of what happened, that she fell, like they explained, she fell backwards, hit her head, and then hit her head again, like a ping pong ball. It doesn't make sense. So that's like, for me, if you can't even come up with a good alternative explanation to him killing her, that makes it even worse.
And I feel like if you get attacked by a fucking owl, there'd be more evidence.
Wouldn't there be like a ton of way
feathers
more
everywhere
feathers
and stuff?
Because
like,
she's probably like smacking it, punching it, and that's what I would do, punch that owl.
But I mean, that would explain other injuries on her arm, but like her
but where are the feathers?
Neck, strangulation on her neck, like that doesn't make sense either. Like, and
where
how
are
the owl
rest of the feathers, and then the owl just left. He went in the staircase and then just was like,
Outside?
"Oh, better get away from this
How?
crime scene that I just caused."
And just like I understand, like, owls' talons are really sharp and like little knives, but like all the blood spatter, it just like doesn't make sense. Like,
but it is weird at the same time. Why does she have feathers in her? This case will keep me up forever.
There's a hard floor. It's possible she could have like slipped on her own blood, maybe.
All I know at the end of the day is she did not fall. She did not just take a tumble. I don't believe that for a second. I'm interested to see you guys, your comments. If you do think Michael's innocent, what you think it was. Do you think it was a fall? Do you think it was an intruder? Do you think it was the owl? I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about this, because I don't know. At the end of it, I just really can't. I can't get away from. I just can't. And I just think of her and what she could have gone through that night, and it pisses me off. This makes me mad.
I think it is very plausible that he could have murdered her. I think it's very plausible. I think there's enough things, enough oddities, enough. The timeline, everything makes sense for murder in this case. It really does. It just makes sense for murder. It just doesn't make sense for just an accidental fall. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just wild, man. It's a totally wild one. And is there enough evidence to link him directly to murder?
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, manslaughter seems more like, legally justified versus a first degree murder charge. Because how do you like, that means premeditated murder. That'd be like, where is the proof for that? How do we know that? There's not like there's emails saying she's gonna
there's a difference here. I mean, we're asking you guys, do you personally think, from what you know, that he's innocent or guilty? And then again, the other question is, do you think there's enough evidence for him to be guilty in a court of law?
Right.
Because I don't know if I necessarily think that. Someone was, I think it was from Scotland, or someone was tweeting me about this and being like, this is why America should have a system that is either guilty or not proven. Because this innocent, it's weird to put him in the innocence box, because I don't feel that he's innocent.
Right.
But can we say without a reasonable doubt that he committed this crime? No. The owl in itself is a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely a reasonable doubt.
But does that show an issue with our legal system?
Yeah.
Josh and I talked a lot about the jury and just like the jury system that we have. And like, is that antiquated? And we started talking about could we replace that with something else? Obviously, that would probably never happen. But it is kind of crazy that we just put people's lives in the hands of just whoever's
randos off the street. Yeah, literally. It's
kind of really old fashioned. And Josh and I were thinking, like, what if they had something for high profile case like this, or all murder cases when life in prison or the death penalty is on the table? They bring in experts, people who are trained to be unbiased, people, it's their job to try to be a jury.
Yeah, but still it'd be better than...
I'm just literally talking off. I have no idea if that's even possible or if that
probably
would never happen.
Yeah, in theoretical sense, that would be ideal, right? I would want people that actually give a shit about being there.
Yeah.
For one, I mean...
But there'd probably be more innocent verdicts, I think, because they're looking for specific proof versus a jury. I mean, emotion gets into it, you know? People get emotionally invested in things and go off of that, you know?
Yeah. Another idea is like, I feel like there's just too many slip-ups, too many mistakes being made by the police departments.
Yeah.
In all investigations. The level of our policing is in a not so great state, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, our justice system might work a bit better if like our police departments and forensics and, you know, the whole process behind the prosecution just was revamped better. There's more oversight from independent, you know, an outside investigation conducted along with the state's investigation. Like if there's some way to, you know, check for errors and things like that, because we're just seeing time and time and time again where evidence isn't handled correctly. The crime scene isn't preserved. There's so many things that get fucked up because people just don't either care enough about their job to do it right, or they are literally, you know, doing this in a malicious way in order to help, like what could have happened in this case, where they are attempting to just help the prosecutors close cases and win cases,
right?
For them
Versus
to make them look good,
yeah.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And I think we need to figure out some way to revamp that. I think there needs to be better. Like again, it's just a overall bigger problem. Is like we need to make policing more of like a smart thing versus like I'm a big dude that, you know, wants to be a cop. Yeah, and I'm speaking this from my own experience. Like I think, you know, the testing should be harder, more rigorous. There should be more certifications. I mean, if they have certifications for computers and technology,
more training.
It should be continuous education and learning. How do you preserve a crime scene? Doing more audits, just the audits. I mean, they finally did that audit on the blood splatter unit and found all of those misrepresented cases. Imagine how many more of those are out there. I bet there's a lot more out there. So I don't know, just my thought, but I think we have a major problem. And unfortunately, if you ever get in a sticky situation with the law, you know,
sounds like we
use your right to remain silent.
Everything.
Absolutely.
That's like what we're coming to the conclusion with every podcast is like everything. We just need to like fucking start over.
We need to completely start over.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you guys for joining us for today's podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, if you're not watching
leave your
it,
opinion.
Comment, subscribe, like.
I definitely want to know what you guys think. For sure.
Definitely want to know what you guys, thought of this one.
That's it for us today, you guys.
But thanks for joining us.
We will see you next time.
Next time.
Stay woke.